Natalie, when you're ready, we'll hand these out.
Okay.
Okay.
I can move next to Steve. What does Steve here?
No, we gotta stay near the mic, that's the problem.
They really need to record.
Huh?
To see comments. We really need to record comments.
Doing that first? Probably. No.
Okay, is everybody back?
We even have.
What was it, the one that Nancy was talking about one day that sounds like.
Yeah.
Huh?
Here.
Look at all the people, members who have shown up.
We wore them out this morning. We wore them out this morning.
Yeah.
Or I could start to build the cross now with.
Not on there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call this to order.
Because what?
Because that was us, because things were swearing.
Yeah. Six is one of them.
Oh, six. They gave us timelines and we're already 15 minutes late.
Imagine.
Do we have any board members online?
I can check for you right
Yeah.
now.
Any board members not in the room?
Yes.
Just the place
Yeah,
is
it's
not.
not-
Oh, that's
No,
right.
I don't. We have one person watching. but-
I
Okay.
agree.
We'll try
I
to
do
be
think
nice.
somebody.
Okay, I'm gonna call
Oh.
this meeting to order
I
at
didn't say I
2:15.
didn't think there wasn't someone to blame.
I don't think so.
Steve K.
Oh,
Staff.
Thank you. Here's my gavel. Bart, you wanna do roll call?
Nothing would please me more. Marge Garnell,
Here?
Carol Crothers,
Here.
Bart Hillier, I'm here, Jim Carden, Barbara Blake,
Here.
Joe Magliola,
Here.
Nancy Austin, not here, Kathy
She is
Batchelor.
here.
She is here.
Is
Nancy's
she
here?
zooming in?
Nancy?
She's not a panelist.
I haven't seen her yet.
No.
No,
Yeah,
she's not.
I would be surprised if she were.
Sometimes she does.
Okay, Kathy Batchelor,
Here.
Beth Dingman,
Here.
Steve Gilbert,
Here.
Bev Lawless,
Here.
Dick Sutherland,
Here.
Scott Summers.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
We don't need a quorum, this is just a work session.
Well, I wanted one.
Thank you, sir.
Why are they all argumentative with me today?
What is that
I'm
supposed to
getting
mean?
blamed for everything. I don't think he likes me.
Hey, happy Valentine's Day to you, Mark.
Okay,
Go.
you have the agenda in front of you. Are there any changes to it? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve.
I never got an agenda.
Oh, here you go.
Oh, that's because she's holding it.
No, we'll give him one.
Don't let him
That's
have
Steve.
Yeah,
one.
do I?
Oh.
We didn't want you to
It's
know
got
what
your
was
name on it.
happening.
Did you pick something up at the?
There's your agenda. It's the first page.
We can.
That's what I was reading.
I'm looking out.
It was a long morning, Scott.
I have a motion. Kathy moved to approve.
Second.
Yeah, we already have it. And Barbara seconded. So we have a motion to approve with a second. Any discussion? Those in favor? Unanimous. This is good stuff. Isn't this good stuff? Yeah,
Your
we want
teamwork plan's
unanimous.
working already.
Okay, Scott, I'm gonna turn this over to you.
Okay.
He's got the, and I hope you've all had a chance to read the 2024 work plan. He put a lot of work into this.
Yep.
It's yours.
All right, well, I want to remind everyone, the work plan is a product of the strategic plan, or maybe it's the other way around, but the strategic plan, it really is the starting point for everything that we do. We've got a mission and we have a vision for the corporation. If you recall looking at that, the vision has goals, five goals, and each of those goals have initiatives. And then focusing down into the real details are these action steps, which turn into the annual work plan, which then support the initiatives, which support the goals, which support the vision. We've broken these down based on functional area of the organization, like we have in previous years. The numbers on the left, 2.23, for example, on the very first one up here, that means that coordinates with goal 2 initiative. Wait a minute. Goal 2, initiative 2 is an objective 2. Or shoot,
Let me pull 3.
now I've got it wrong. The goal is 2. I think it's the initiative is 2. And it must be the objective is 3. I think that's what it is. Does that sound right?
Let's just run with that.
All right. See, this is what happens when I'm flying off the seat of my pants. Anyway, there's a method to the madness.
I have a feeling he didn't type this.
No, I absolutely typed it. 100%. The way we do this is the department heads and senior staff will get their goals to me, and then I will put it together in a master and amend it, edit it, add to it, subtract from it, and then we present it to the board. So as I said, each one of these is organized by functional area. We don't need to go through every one of these. We've done that in previous years. It takes about 3 hours. We could go by functional area, or I could just simply open it up to questions. What would you like?
I'm game with the questions, but if that is the thing, I have a question.
Okay, let's do that. We'll start there.
So, time for my question?
I'm ready.
Can we do question page by page, like any questions on this page
No.
or? anything now?
Uh-oh.
I only have one question, but it's not on page.
I have a question on page 2.
Okay, wait a minute.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right, page 1. Where are we at with page 1?
Page 2.
Page one.
Yeah,
We're
page
on
two.
page
Page two.
Oh, all right.
Come on, would you catch up?
Page 2.
Page 2.
Yes.
That's this one. And
That's,
are there any questions on page 2? That,
okay.
I'm sorry, we're going with the small page
this
too,
page,
or
the
the
big
The
page.
big
Okay,
page
I'm
two.
sorry, big number.
Okay. I have a question on 5.6.1. Down there,
Bottom.
participate with outside organization, blah, blah, blah. GVR representative meeting, what does that mean?
So that, the GVR representative meeting is the GVC. That's the Green Valley Council. They have a monthly representative meeting, which brings together the presidents and sometimes other board members of the HOAs that have joined the GVC.
So that should say
So it should
GVC?
say GVC and not GVR.
Why the heck does it say that? Yes, you're absolutely right. No wonder we're confused.
Third one down.
Yeah, that was my
Now he's gonna
fault.
say he didn't type it.
It was-
Now he's saying that somebody
It-
else.
Yeah, Nancy, thanks a lot.
Maybe I
Should've
should
got
know
it
this,
right
but I don't.
Yeah. now-
That's the Greater Green Valley Community Foundation.
Okay, don't worry about it.
It's
Nancy will
an
fix it
organization
for you.
that does grants
Huh.
and other
It's not GVR
projects.
Foundation, is it? Is it?
No.
Okay.
That's the GVR Foundation.
Okay, are there any other questions on the first page, number 2? Carol,
I have sort of a general question. and-
are you on page 2?
Yeah.
Okay,
But it's a general question. As I read through all these,
Mhm.
my first thought is some of them are really important and we really want you to focus on. Others, almost wonder how they got on there and why they're there. Would it be helpful to you and your staff if we prioritize these? Or at least gave an A, B, C, D or something?
I think that's up to you. You've just given me goals that I have assumed are your priorities for me above this. This absolutely has to get done. This is more of a working document on the things that we're going to achieve this year. Because that's what the strategic plan says. So to some degree, your strategic plan has looked at those due dates over the 5-year plan, and to a great degree, we have prioritized them based on when the due date falls. So to some degree, that has happened.
Okay, but
Those that fell in 22, those were done first.
aren't we supposed to review the strategic plan each year and update it? I thought that
It's
was
a-
part of the,
That's kind of what this is. You've got a 5-year strategic plan. So the updates are these.
well, that's where I think the board may want to step in and reprioritize or say, oh, I don't think that's important any longer.
Okay?
I mean,
Okay,
but that's a different exercise, I think, than what we set out to do
Yeah,
here.
Carol, this is, I mean,
Yes.
I think we have to stick with what we have here for now. And I think if the board wants a different format, maybe we can form a committee or a group to work with Scott for a different format next year.
Well, what I think we need to do as a board is review the strategic plan and decide if we want to make updates to it. And that probably should have been done before you started this effort.
Well, I think I would go back to the very beginning then, because that's a different strategic plan than the one that you have adopted already. That was done, that's a 5-year strategic plan. The goals don't change, the initiatives don't change. The way these bullets are the things that achieve those initiatives, which achieve those goals, which achieves the vision. But the other items, they're static. They're a 5-year plan, unless you want to revisit it every year and maybe go through the exercise of reprioritizing. Is this goal more important or is this initiative more important? But I think that's a different type of strategic plan than the one you adopted in 21.
Well, most strategic plans at some interval are reviewed.
That's
because-
what this is.
But no, we're reviewing your work.
All
Your work plan, in my mind. And I think it's a board duty to review the strategic plan because you tied everything to it.
It's supposed to be tied to it, for one. But for two, the board had adopted a 5-year plan. So if the board wants to review and update its 5-year plan, you can do that. I mean, you can have a facilitator update that the way we did 3 years ago, just about 3 years ago. That's certainly an option. Bring a facilitator in to do that if you'd like. You can do it yourself. This supports what you've been doing. And if you want to change direction, you can also do that too.
Okay.
And I think, I think that this is the board's decision and then really, we're working on this for now. He did this last year for us and it was kind of nice at the end of the year as your only new board member to hear the things that he had done and had gotten done. And he actually checked off a lot of things, which was kind of neat to hear. So if the whole board is okay with this, let's just stay with this format. And if we want to change the format, then let's meet as a board after you get a new president and let them decide how to handle it.
At the end of the day, it is the board's
Yeah,
strategic
that
plan.
was
So if
pretty
you
Yeah.
all want to go in a different direction,
Yeah.
So-
that's
So
your
again, we're
prerogative.
all right. except for-
Question on 541. I know we had training last year. We have training this year. Do we have input into training?
Right.
Building.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, usually in April, Nancy and I just talked about scheduling an orientation, which is about the organization, the nuts and bolts of the organization. There's a piece where the attorney comes in and talks about that. That's more orientation. Training, we've talked a bit, Marge and I have talked about it, as well as Nancy and I, about doing a retreat, which would be based on team building of all things. And probably hitting the ground running as soon as possible, April, May, as a way to do that. We've done that a few years. The other thing that we did as part of an orientation was we had Alexander Carrillo does an online training for board members that really talk about what it means to be a board member, your role as a board member, your role as individuals, as well as being part of a larger body. So that's hopefully been helpful. But I think it would be great if we did get input from the rest of the board on what additional training you would like. And we could add that as a goal to reach out and survey the board members to find out what it is you would like to know more about. If you want.
Anybody want that?
Everyone's perfect, I think. I'm sure.
I think it's broad.
That was Jim.
Scott?
That was,
Yes,
was not
Kathy just
serious
had a good
remark.
point. This is broad
you
enough.
looked at me seriously.
If
Mhm.
everybody's okay with it, this is broad
Yeah,
enough so
that's
that
good.
you could reach out to the board.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, Nancy and I are working on this one together, so we could look at other opportunities and there's actually quite a few online webinar training opportunities that we could send you to and sign you up for as well. You could all start the brown dog training again if you want with policy governance.
Never, 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 never.
Was that
Maybe
a
go
bad
up to Goodyear for a
experience?
spring training game.
Yeah, there you
She
go.
doesn't take our bylaws and CPM into.
All right then.
Page 3.
Okay, page 3.
Page,
Okay, we're on page 3. Does anybody
3.
have any comments from page 3? I'm gonna go first.
Go.
I just want to know what the new app was under 3.4.4. So we're looking at maybe updating we did the
New app.
website. What's the
Right.
new app?
We don't have one yet. That's, so we would be investigating that, pricing that out.
Okay, to do what?
Yeah, we can ask that.
Well, the app that we had now was just pointing to pages, so it's not really a functional app. It's just a way to quickly access the pages that are already on the website. But if we had an app that actually had functionality so that you could do things like, you know, maybe look at real-time data. If we get an online reservation system, we could people could use the app to look for what rooms are available. But right now our app is not an app.
So this would be a companion,
It would
To
be
the
in addition
website.
to the website?
I think
It would,
so.
yeah, and complement.
It's not an app.
Inept.
Why did I have to sit next to you? You chose to. I didn't.
I mean, the website is, I can't remember the name, but it's ratio something or other, so that when you pull it up on your phone, you can look at it as a website. And it shrinks and you don't have to scroll 100 feet.
It does,
So
yeah.
The website is optimized.
you still have, that's the word optimized.
Yeah.
So you still have that functionality, but this would provide additional functionality.
Okay,
Yeah,
Kathy.
I just have a question, and Natalie can probably answer it, on that page, 3.3.2,
Yeah.
the first,
question too.
bullet. Develop and implement a social media plan, and I'm not sure what you're referring to as a social media plan.
So right now, the only social media channel that we're managing is Facebook. We'd like to add at least Instagram to that because the demographic studies say that the demographic in Green Valley is using Instagram. So we would like to add that, but so the social media plan would include, it's like an editorial calendar in the
They're
month of
doing.
January. We're gonna be pushing out this many
Crazy to
posts that
me.
are about these subjects, and they're going to be assigned out to various staff who'll be responsible for managing those posts.
Okay, thank
And
you.
right now, we don't have a formal plan. We're just hip shooting it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Beth?
Just a quick comment, on 5.2.3, it says something, staff liaison functions to be facilitated to ensure committee continuity. I mean, or does that mean on the long term? Because in the short term, it seems to me they're doing a fantastic job. Does that mean like over the years,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, this is ongoing,
Keeping
right,
records from over the years, okay.
right. And then kind of reminding new committee members of the strategic plan, of the annual work plan. And each committee really develops its own work plan. And what I've asked the liaisons to do is put together kind of the action items for each committee based on what this annual work plan shows, so that we're working together here as a team.
How about the electronic signage? What are you thinking? I mean, are we gonna have signs that point us to each facility or arrows or what? It is,
Where you, what number are you on?
1.3.4 says implement standard and electronic signage. We don't have any.
Then we have.
Yes, we
We have
do.
this one out here that's not, you mean the ones inside?
Yeah, but that's what we have right now, our digital bulletin boards.
Inside.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I just want to point out, so 1.3.4 is the initiative that is in the plan currently. That is the existing language for 22-26. What we're looking to tackle is the bullet for this year, which is improve how paper bulletins are presented in centers. Am I reading that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's wrong with the way paper bulletins are presented in centers? I mean, what is it that you're going to improve?
Hopefully efficiency so that you can actually find the item that you're looking for. They have a tendency to get very cluttered and difficult to sort through. And they're.
Like, I don't know how to fix that, really.
Yeah.
Is there a way to fix that? I feel?
Sure, there are options. It's just a matter of, we need to line them up and check them out and look at the budget. Some of them are really expensive. And then some of them, I would want to kind of test them out maybe with some members and find out if they're actually more functional than standing there searching through all of the bulletins, if you have to flip through, for example, and so you're looking for the next dance, that's easy because it would be labeled as clubs, dance clubs or whatever, and do a flip chart style.
I mean, I look at our bulletin board at Santa Rita Springs every day. It's pretty simple. It's hard for me to imagine it being any better. I'll throw that out for whatever it's worth. You could do it alphabetical by date. That would be interesting.
Okay, any other questions on page 3? You blocking me? You have a question?
I have a question.
Speak into the mic.
Natalie, have you thought about a group, GVR group on Tinder?
Oh, my goodness.
I need to cover that. I'm sure that's.
That feels
already-
I think that falls right in line with pole dancing.
Under boards and committees, and we sort of touched on it other places, but we have a major initiative called Work Together Effectively as a Board with measurements, and I don't see that listed anywhere under board and committees. And
Yeah, I think add it. Yeah.
I think it should be, okay, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find what the initiative would be. We could find that, but can you say, what is the?
Well,
what
one is review the strategic plan regularly, which is what we just discussed. I mean, it seems to me this whole section was sort of skipped. But not
No,
totally, because you do
mostly
have it
because
on-
I don't really speak for the boards and committees
Underboard.
necessarily.
That's what I'm talking about. Review strategic.
Well, you're part of the board.
Maybe 521.
I think you missed my point. That's not what I'm talking about. If there's something the board wants to do, this is the meeting for it. So it's not like something was
Right.
intentionally
Right
skipped,
there.
but what was the number you were looking at?
It's 5.2 on page 2. Review
Yeah.
the strategic plan.
But that's not. Okay, so do we want that to be noted under board and committees then that we're gonna review? The board is gonna review the strategic plan and work together learn to work together.
But isn't this Scott's work plan, not our work plan?
Well, but
Well,
he's got us
it's
under
good
board and
organization.
committees.
So why don't we
It's just what
put this
do.
I just
under,
prefer that on this one.
Well, what you could put them both under. Put 5.2 plus that one and.
5.2.
5.22.
They refer to it very set.
Yeah, could you do one of the referrals there, Scott, like you do on some of the other sections?
Or refer to administration maybe.
put it right here?
You say, yeah, you'll say C 1.2.3 or whatever.
Well, unless you want to add something.
No muttering. No.
Okay, so
Turn off. Turn it off. Okay, anything else on page 3? So we're whipping. Okay, we're on the big page 4
I
now.
ruined my thing.
Right. Under 1.3.1, third bullet, it says update flooring at Las Campanas per MRR schedule and finishes plan September. Is there a written plan? I mean, how did you pick Las Campanas?
That's
And,
part of the MRR.
okay,
I'm
so,
actually not quite sure why it's on there, because that's just gonna happen anyway.
well, that's what I was wondering. If it's part of a written plan, why would it need to be here?
Yeah, it's part of MRR,
Okay, so we can take that off.
probably, yeah. Which one was this? I'm sorry.
1.3.1.
Update.
Well, you could
Third
forget to do
bullet.
it. I mean,
There we go. Yeah, and.
It's already
we will.
been done.
And 1.3.1 is basically.
If we delete it,
reference
does that
to
mean
the
the floor
MRR.
will not be?
The whole.
Correct. We're just gonna take it
Any
out.
question?
Well,
Not
if
replace
we
it.
put anything in there, it would be make sure we have a decision on whether we're gonna change anything there. And I guess we don't have anything in the plan to change Las Campanas floor area.
Well, we would change the flooring to something that's probably not as dated, something that's probably more reflective of the flooring that we did at Canoa Hills.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
No, I'm just trying to figure out why it was here.
I don't think it should have been. It's an
Okay.
MRR project. We
Okay,
don't
let's
normally
just
put
scratch it.
MRR projects here. I think
Scott,
that was an oversight. Yes, ma'am.
isn't 1.3.1 all MRR stuff?
You know, yes, to some degree. Although the second bullet is not. Although that's finishes and amenities up to date. 1.3.1, I mean, that's an initiative that's already in your strategic plan. And it ended up there, and I can't remember how or why, but for the most part, if we're keeping finishes and amenities up to date, then that's mostly MRR projects, sure. It doesn't mean that we're not necessarily telling you what we're doing here, even if it is related to MRR, I suppose.
Okay. Does anybody else have
But
any questions?
it's pretty detailed. I'm not sure it really even needs to be in there except for
Okay.
the second bullet.
So we have Bev, and then when you're done, Beth, and then Bart.
1.2.5, the second one, partner with the IT department regarding all site surveillance solution. Could you explain that, please, since we've so far approved cameras that are gonna be at the major centers, a limited amount of cameras at the major centers.
My question was on the same bullet.
Okay. Same bullet, same.
Yeah,
everything? Okay.
my observation, if I may, is that I think it's premature. I mean, the board voted on the compromise for $50,000, cameras placed where the staff wanted them. I don't think that we'll be in any position by April, which is the action time here, by April to say
2
whether
months.
that's enough, too little, or too much. So I'm not even sure that bullet belongs in 2024.
Yeah, that wasn't even, I don't think that's related to anything having to do with those security cameras. And frankly, I don't remember either. But do you, Natalie, since you're the.
I'm not the author of that one.
This might have been a holdover. I would just say get rid of it.
Just
Okay, so we're gonna take that one out.
2.5,
Or change the
bullet
date,
number
change
2,
Yeah, I
November
just
instead of
We're
April.
just gonna take it out.
delete.
I would get rid of it.
Delete.
Unless honestly, this is not something that the staff would
Yeah.
put under your nose and pretend that we didn't accidentally put it there. We wouldn't touch it with a hot potato or a 10-foot pole anyway.
Hey, Beth,
1.1.5, reduce electric energy consumption. Do we give up on EVs and any thought of buying hybrids when you?
We have to some degree anyway. I think we continue to do that. What number are we looking at?
1.1.5.
There it is. No, we haven't given up on that.
Okay.
What we gave up on, at least at this point, was
Was the
installing charging stations
Yeah,
on our campus.
but that's sort of still on the agenda. I mean, in terms of like replacing cars.
Sure, if it makes sense, we do that.
Okay.
okay, any other questions on 4? Let's flip
Use
it over and go
breezes.
to 5.
Hey, let it. Let's go.
Kathy?
The second item down, explore with 3.1.2, explore the idea of allocating space for specialized fitness centers. I'm not sure what you mean by specialized.
Yoga.
Yeah, so it's specific things for, and again, this is an existing language, but really what this meant was identifying spaces that are suitable for certain fitness activities. And we've really started to do that by creating a fitness studio. We're now looking to maybe create a dedicated yoga studio. Part of the issues that we've had in the past is we've had multi-purpose rooms that were probably a little too multi-purpose. And so the uses weren't necessarily compatible or yeah.
Compatible.
Well, now we're talking volleyball and volleyball.
Now I'm
Wasn't
starting
there
to
an
lose
issue
it.
with the step class that they said the floors were too hard for them or something? Wasn't that? one of
In
them?
certain rooms,
Yeah,
yeah,
Lost
absolutely.
components, Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Las Campanas. So that's one reason we put in new flooring at Continental Vistas and the fitness studio at Desert Hills. So this just says, hey, we're gonna look for a dedicated yoga space that makes sense for yoga instead of, say, a meeting room at Las Campanas, which is really what's happening now. The
Okay.
Ironwood, I think, often serves as a yoga studio, if I'm
Okay.
remembering.
Can I ask a question back on Las Campanas? You talked about replacing flooring to go along with MR&R.
Sure.
And I know the dance club or fitness, line dance people said the floor of Las Campanas was too hard for them to dance on. Is that gonna
True.
be taken into consideration there, replacing it with?
I think when it's replaced, it would be replaced with something different than the parquet that's there now. But do we have any line dancers at
They
the,
teach their classes there.
they teach their
And they
classes
said
there?
now a whole bunch of them suddenly had knee problems they apparently didn't have before.
Oh, that's
because
Well,
the doors-
because they went from
Because
Canela
it's cowboy
Hills
boots.
to,
Yeah,
when it
yeah.
was
Because they're
closed, they went
old.
Yeah,
to
they
Las
also dance
Campanas.
Has a lot to do
now,
with it.
which is a lot of dancing.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Wow.
It's called overuse.
yeah.
Don't they
Of
know they're getting
joints.
older?
But yes, I mean, the floor at Canoa
Where
Hills
cowboy
is
boots are.
ideal for that. And so when it's time to do a new floor at Las Campanas, we would want to make sure that it's compatible. Is that the word?
4.3.4, the first bullet says provide improved and easier to understand budget document for 2025.
Yeah, that's a big goal.
That's a big one.
Yeah. It's a new one.
So you're thinking you're gonna redo how you do the budget or how you present the budget? Don't groan behind me. David's sitting down here groaning.
No, I'm trying to, which number was that again?
That was,
Four.
4.3.4.
Or three.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But we want to try to make the budget document easier to understand, easier to read,
bigger.
that it has more information, clearer, not just say a one pager on the operations and another pager on capital projects. So we're trying to look at ways that we can make this a more comprehensive document.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions for page 5? Carol?
Yeah, and on that one, Scott, and if I were you, I would add a bullet on initiative projects, and that relates right back to the other goals. And I would just make it clear that that's one of the focus items for this year. Did you
Okay.
agree?
Well, it is one of the focus items. I cannot, why am I missing which number we were on? I'm
You're
sorry.
right there, 3, 4.
4.3.4.
Which bullet is it?
What she wants to.
First
add a
bullet.
new-
First
Add a
one.
bullet under, just on initiative projects, honest to goodness budget for initiative projects.
Seems to me that finance department has an awful lot more than anybody else. Okay, page 6.
No,
Hold
I've
on,
got
let me-
another-
let me
I've
write
got
this
another
down. I
one.
gotta write this down here.
I have another one.
What?
And I think this belongs up above finance department, so David's off the hook.
What number?
There isn't a number, and I think this, maybe it goes under 443, I'm not sure. It probably does, and I think we need to keep up to date with recommended MR&R activities. And we need to do a better job developing plans that minimize center closures. I've heard so many complaints about the centers being down. So that's something that I just think would be a good thing to focus on.
Where are you?
Under 443,
Okay.
It's actually the next page, page 6.
no, it's on 5.
At the
That's
top.
where I put it. I guess it was the other place.
4.3 is on page
Near the
6.
top.
Okay,
It's big.
maintain and
Big
continue to
number
utilize
6.
reserve study, and then there's 2 bullets under it, complete the projects.
Where's that?
And
Top
the
right
second one with finance,
Right
review
here.
them
Right there.
to ensure that it includes
This is
all
a
facilities that
443.
qualify for
And
capital.
Oh, yeah.
And I
But
would add
under
develop plans that
finance, and
minimize
this is
center
probably under.
closures.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, we can add that.
facilities.
That's definitely a goal. Develop plans.
Or consider approaches that.
I like that better.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's no keeping people happy on that one. The summer people, the year-round people complain
Well,
if you close a
that is
facility in the
exactly true.
summertime because it's being used less. because there aren't as many people here, and the snowbirds complain, we close it during peak season. So there's no. keeping
Well, there,
people
in the
out.
summertime, there's enough facilities that people can more easily move to a different facility and still get some space.
That will not stop.
Well,
the
I think you
complaints.
have to
Yeah,
ask
I know.
yourself, are we reacting to this because of the problems at Canoa Hills? I mean, it was Canoa
I think
Hills.
it's a valid,
No,
it's a
no.
valid point.
It's,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
heard
Point
it
to
at,
consider.
I heard it at Desert Hills. I mean, I've heard it multiple places.
Desert Hills wasn't closed. It was kind of loud and dusty. I think the pool was closed for 2 weeks
For deck refinishing that was scheduled.
for deck refinishing that would have been done anyway. But we did, I can't remember if we coordinated it, but there was some serious dust, but the center wasn't closed for, the whole center was not closed. It was really just the pool, I think, for 2 weeks. Canoa Hills was a different story. This goes back to, the project just took a lot longer. We did consider it and tried to minimize it and wanted to have it done. We started it in June, or May or June,
June 17th.
and it was supposed to end in October. Absolutely, we considered it 100%. That's why we did it. And it didn't work the way we had wanted it to.
Isn't that the one where you?
We wouldn't have intentionally had that thing go through, at least we,
If
at
I
least we had
can,
it done by
I'll just comment that
January 1st.
it had long been our practice before Scott came on to close entire centers for those sorts of things. And we have already implemented plans with huge improvements where we close a wing or a side of a center or certain entrances to a center. We park a crane behind the building so that people can still come in the front. So all of those considerations are already out there. And the written direction to facilities for this summer is to try to consolidate our pool deck refinishing in May and September to the degree that we can, because we do get complaints from our year rounders that in the heat of the season, we close pools. So they have that direction to the degree that our contractors can accommodate it, and also that we won't close CP1 and CP2 at the same time. So, all of those considerations are part of the MRR planning that's underway.
I do want to thank Natalie for tooting my horn on that one. I'm not very good at it, but you're absolutely 100% right. We had some facility staff that left a while ago that had no problem closing entire centers because they were going to paint a wall in the lobby.
Correct. That is correct.
And I went, that's not going to happen.
And this is being recorded, right?
I didn't name any names.
No, I'm just saying you owe me one now.
I really appreciate that.
I just have a clarification for me, if you could, under 4.3.4, the third one down, provide annual primer on reading financial statements. I don't understand that terminology. What's an annual primer?
Did I spell it
And I would
right?
say, good luck.
It's supposed to be a
That's
primer.
reading statements
Primer.
debate.
That's
Okay.
how to
Dummies.
read 'em.
Yeah, there's a book.
Right.
For dummies.
Financials for dummies.
Thank you.
I like it.
We
It's a how
probably
to.
shouldn't have
There it
David
is.
do that, though.
Yeah, this came up as a direction
above
and a
my level.
request that
Okay,
David would
that's all
start.
I
Okay,
needed.
so-
Thank you.
Okay, never
All
mind.
right, so we're done with
I
5.
already went to David and
Carol?
asked him.
I have another one.
One more.
Okay, and that one, and it's not
I don't know.
specifically called out, but maybe work is underway, like Natalie just told me on this one. Under finance, I think cash management, particularly now that our interest rates are high enough that putting money in interest bearing accounts, 5%. I just got a 5.35% short-term CD just yesterday,
How short?
3 months.
Where is it?
So cash management really could result in some,
Bank of the Kremlin.
David, because I think.
it's a US bond, but which might be the same, I don't know. But it was a US bond.
So this seems like this is 4.3.3, the first bullet.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Is it in there? I
Yeah,
might have.
4.3.
Well, it says you've got an investment committee.
No, this is not investment committee.
4.33.
On page 5, yeah.
433.
And maybe that, you don't have to have the investment committee there, you need to have, continue utilizing sound professional investment strategies, because David usually some of those, so maybe we could take out with the investment committee and board and just start continue. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
No, it's actually something different than,
Well, let's start
Investment
with that one,
strategies.
and then we'll see what else you want.
okay.
So we're taking this out, is this
We're
what you're
just gonna
telling
take
me?
out with investment committee and board, and that way, that, because you're already doing this. Okay, and then Carol, what else are you saying needs to be in here?
There's a common
Yeah.
discipline in large finance departments. And we have a small department, so, but it's called cash management, and it's a term that people use. And it's just a methodology to take a look at available cash and see how you can maximize the return of it. Now, when we were getting less, like 2.2% interest, it wasn't worth the effort. But we're reaching a point at over 5% for very short-term money that it's become a lot more worth the effort.
Okay, where would you put that?
It kind of belongs under that one, but cash management is a different term than investment strategies.
I would-
From a finance
I would
standpoint.
kind of look at 4.3.1 because that sounds like a financial policy.
David says he can handle it.
Well, let's just make sure it's on here, but is that a new policy? Is that a policy that FAC can work with, that David can work with?
And David's already doing a lot of this.
He's
I'm
already
trying
doing
to, I don't want to say he isn't, but
Yeah, we
I
were
think it
also
is a
talking
good
the fact about investing our
Yeah.
short-term cash in some other products.
And we've got continue updates on recommended policies. Do you want me to say something such as cash management policies?
that would be good. That way we wouldn't forget it.
Yeah, if it's not written down.
I just think financial says that.
4.3.1.
You know, maybe, guys, when you think about it, if Barbara just said that, the word financial works better than saying investment or cash management. I mean, can we just say, financial instead of saying, I lost it? It's all his fault.
But here you're saying financial policies right here.
Yeah.
Which is broader,
Yeah.
and then your such as is a little bit more specific.
Mhm.
I just think we need to be careful that we're not micromanaging what David is,
That's right.
his staff are doing. In the past, I remember a board member expecting them to move money on a daily basis from one account to another, depending on whether or not they needed to spend it the next day or not.
Yeah.
You cannot do that on a daily basis.
I mean, some
It's not
organizations
possible.
have looked into sweep accounts where you can invest it overnight, and we've looked at it. I mean, they're not as lucrative as they used to be at one point. It doesn't mean that we couldn't
Well,
look
and you
into
have
it
to have a
again.
bigger threshold.
Yeah.
What
We
if we
do.
said under 4.3.3, what if we said employ sound financial strategies to
Yeah.
maximize passive
The,
income?
the reason we brought it up, and I thought Scott agreed, is cash management is just a trigger that we remember over the year to just see how we're doing. And again, I believe we're making real progress here.
He's got it up there in 4.3.1.
Did you put it
He's
in?
got it in
Okay.
Yeah, well, I
4.3.1.
wrote it right here.
Yeah, so that's, I'm
Okay,
happy with
Scott
that.
handled it.
Yep.
Anything else on page 5?
I feel like we're missing a piece. Big.
Let's go to page 6,
Big.
when we are
Okay.
rocking and rolling. Anything on page 6?
I have a comment, not so much a question.
Okay.
And I think it would probably come under HR in their training. Two things that I would love to see when I come into the administrative offices, if employees wear name tags, because I'm all the time talking to people that I don't know who they are. And I think they think I do know who they are, and I feel, and I'm too embarrassed to ask. And the other thing is, I just, for the first time ever, made a room reservation for a group of ladies that I play cards with, and because we're getting a little bit bigger, they decided they wanted to take it out of their homes and use G-Bear Center.
Sure.
And so I made the reservation, and then, and as part of the contract I signed, it said, you'll need to call, staff or whoever it is that puts out the tables, chairs and stuff to tell them what you need. So I left a message for that number and they said they'd call you back. But that person called me back today. But it was right after our meeting this morning. And she said, this is Rochelle, I think, from Desert Hills. And I thought I was getting a call from a member that I didn't know with a comment or complaint or whatever from somebody.
Okay,
If she would have said, this is Rochelle from GVR such and such department about the chairs, I would have, but at first I'm like, who is this person? Why are they calling me? Because that's happened to me before.
yeah.
Way back when I was brand new here, I got a call from Raising Helen or whatever she goes.
Hell raising Helen.
And I get this call from this person and I don't know who she is.
Uh-huh.
I don't think she identifies herself. I have no idea why she's calling me. And I was, I think, a candidate at the time, and I was like, how did she get my number? Because I was really creeped out by it. Well, I was dumb enough when I came here to put my number in a local directory. And so that's where she got my number. So I thought that's how this person got my number. I had no idea
Yeah.
that, you know, she worked for, and then she said, finally she said GVR. Because Desert Hills to me is where my friend lives, not the facility.
Not the
So
facility,
they would
right.
just say, this is Rochelle from whatever department that is.
I think
Desert
those are
Hills.
both really good recommendations
would
for
go.
operational things that
Yeah, that's,
Natalie's taking notes
that
on.
wouldn't go on here, and I get calls.
I think
from
we just
lost
do it.
It would be
components.
similar on the
You know, the
thing.
lost
Some people know how to
components, people
identify
say
themselves.
that, they say, hi, this is the so-and-so at lost
Yeah, we
components.
could say
How do you want that
construction.
room set up? So I know who they are and what they
Yeah.
want right away.
And she said, this is Rochelle from Desert Hills, but I didn't realize she meant the GVR facility.
Oh, okay.
That didn't help me.
That would help,
Going on.
seriously.
Okay, anything on six, anything that's on here? So we're gonna develop a sustainable volunteer program, huh? Does that fall under Natalie or does that fall under David?
There should stand our attempt to develop.
Well, it's been on the list for
right
3
here at
years,
this
and we
table.
heard this morning.
Look at this
Why we
sustainable
think that's
volunteer
important.
program, right?
Yeah.
You need a volunteer
The
to lead the
lady this
volunteer
morning that
program.
complained about, you know, you don't do dinners for us anymore, and it's like, I'm sorry, if I volunteer, it's not so I can get a dinner at the end of the year, it's because I enjoy what I'm volunteering
people like the
for,
food.
or I think it's important. I really don't want GVR spending more money on a dinner because I volunteered for them,
We're gonna have a lunch.
Yeah, we're doing a lunch.
but yeah.
Um,
You know, the volunteers like that. They like, you know, there used to
It's
be
just
a
a thank
volunteer
you.
coordinator
Yeah.
and she used
Yeah.
to do all kinds of fun things.
Oh, boy.
And we got a lot of really great positive feedback.
Plus, we got a lot of volunteer service,
Yeah,
which
we
kept an
did.
eye on who came to the pools and who.
I didn't mean to start a
Okay.
big
Well, they
conversation.
used to give discounts on the dues too.
Scott,
This is my work plan, just so you know. I'd like to be able to participate.
no, just sit back and relax. We're working on it.
Let me know when you're ready. We're
So
ready.
was there anything on six? I just shouldn't have made that comment, but. Okay, page 7, is there any,
Wait.
Oh,
I
She's
wanna
just
hear what
ignoring
Scott
me.
has to
She's
say.
just ignoring me. She's
Come on.
moving on.
did you have something?
Well, yeah, I
page
wanted to
6?
talk about the volunteer, which item is this again?
What's the number?
3.2.1.
3.2.1.
Okay, this is something I really want us to talk about. We don't have to do it now, but I think we need to say with recreation and board, possibly in the first bullet, and really have a discussion about where we think volunteers could be useful. There's a lot of discussion, as Carol said this morning, somebody brought it up. Most of those volunteers, and I wasn't here when this program was in place, but I understand most of those volunteers were fitness center
Monitors.
monitors
And
and
pool
pool
monitors.
monitors. So we can bring them back, but a lot of people complained about them. And I think you need to first ask yourself, what is the need and the purpose of a monitor at each of those facilities? And if there isn't a need, then I would say you probably shouldn't bring it back. But where else could we, as an organization, utilize volunteers? And you don't have to answer that today. It's gonna be a goal.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
Well, I like,
Go ahead, answer.
I like Tom's cookies.
He volunteers those, that is true.
Were you here this morning? Because I thought Eric
I
made a
was.
good point. In that there's more than just GVR. There are numerous organizations in
Oh,
Green
yeah.
Valley.
We
many
compete for
that are
volunteers, that's
volunteer
true.
oriented, that a lot of people really like to volunteer for those organizations. Maybe more so than us.
Maybe
But
because we
we
all
don't
get.
first measure that.
I don't get food for pets.
We do
No,
host
I
To, to me,
the
if I may,
volunteer fair every year here at
Yes,
Westoner.
you do.
Mhm.
the, you know, volunteers
Mhm.
and security could and should go together. To my mind, volunteers, and I know in speaking with the guy who used to be the primary volunteer at the pool at Santa Rita Springs, he was the first line at identifying people who weren't supposed to be there, who were there at the pool. And he would typically start just by, you know, he would ask them, so, you know, are you a guest of somebody around here? Or, you know, are you new to Green Valley or whatever, you know, some conversation starter. And then it would be revealed sometimes that they were there and shouldn't be. For example, they were using a guest pass from a rental. You know, if you're in a rental, you need a tenant pass, not a guest pass. And then he was enabled to, you know, call a COA and the COA come out and so to me, volunteers could, and I think should, be kind of a first line as to security, as to whether we've got authorized or unauthorized people using the facilities. That's it.
That was one reason, that was one of the things the monitors did.
And that's fine. I think you as a board and with your members need to have that discussion.
Right, I
And
agree.
there were pros and cons.
Yeah.
You just gave a very clear pro. Others felt harassed by monitors.
Well,
and
that's when we
would-
paid them.
And we would hear
We
about
should
that.
not pay them. When we paid them, they became Hitlers. Yes.
Okay, let's move to page 7.
Okay, anyway, it's
20 cents an
here
hour.
with board and recreation, because I think this is a board discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, but that's it.
Okay.
See how he did that? He slid that right back on those. didn't he?
Yep, that's
Pretty
fine.
good
That's a good
then.
place for it.
We'll have to eliminate the no firearms policy.
Yeah.
We also have a ton of administration volunteers. Scott, that did those
Okay, I have one
stuff.
question on 7, if I might.
Which one?
Elections.
Which one? Go ahead.
On 7, well, there's a lot of, I says, solutions to find solutions, decrease,
Where are you?
on page 7, there's no number, it's,
1, 2,
So it's
3,
a-
2.2.1,
3.3.
way down, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, there.
4 down. So it just about what we were just saying, but my question was, how do we have any sense of how people misuse
Yes.
the, you know,
Well, the primary way is what I
Identifying-
described.
right, and I was just asking Scott whether there was any other information about how cards and things get misused.
Yeah.
I mean, people will, you know, if Airbnbs or rentals, they'll leave a guest card or a companion pass on their counter for their tenants to use. And the tenants don't know any different. The
Right.
tenant, the renter or the landlord should, but yeah, that happens a lot. And we had examples previously when the board was talking about the guest policy on guest passes being found on Craigslist and eBay.
Now, I checked fairly right. I've never seen one for what it's worth. So maybe that was something
It might have been.
far in the past, but
I think it's mostly Airbnbs right now, in terms of that. There's one sitting on the counter at my sister-in-law's Airbnb this
Hmm.
morning.
It's a guest card,
Mhm.
not a tenant card.
It's a guest card. And the other one is using it for locals.
Yeah,
Sure, that one
That's
happens
very
a lot.
popular. But I think the biggest abuse is actually not using a guest card at all and just coming in on grandma's
Mm.
card.
Right.
That happens a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tons.
just use my card, just get in.
Come behind.
Yeah, just go like
And I
this.
had one, and I told Scott about it yesterday, so in making this room reservation, I realized that the 3 ladies that we're adding to our group, I don't know if they're GVR members or not. I think at least one of them is, don't know about the other people, because one of them's renting, so I don't know what kind of pass she's got. And my friend said, oh, they don't need one. She said there'll be a sign-up sheet, and you just don't sign in if you don't have it.
Yeah,
That's one of the reasons, didn't we
So-
eliminate sign-in sheets for that reason?
So how common is it that people think, I don't need a card at all, I just won't sign in?
That's the whole reason why it doesn't matter, because you
Yeah.
just don't sign in.
Yeah.
And so the sign-in sheets were not preventing anything.
Weren't doing
And that's a person who knows what needs to be done and is
Right.
choosing to do something different. And I
Yeah.
think there's so much of that going on.
There is. Get away with what you can.
Yeah.
But even coming into West Center, play badminton or whatever, table tennis or whatever they're setting up in there, I mean, sometimes I've seen it in there. You don't need a card to get in.
That's
Right.
true.
Tennis courts.
But you can come in
Yeah.
on somebody else's
Walk right on
card.
and
I
play.
mean,
But I mean,
Yeah,
you
but
don't
they
need a
don't
card
need
to
a card,
enter the
yeah.
building.
no, you don't.
And at some of the other centers, I know you don't.
And that's a discussion I think we need to
Yeah.
have as
Yeah,
part
I
of
think we
security.
do.
Yeah,
I think we do.
that's a, I think board, and I'll tell you one thing, several years ago that was done was really to encourage the clubs to help us. And it became quite effective. I remember twice I had to walk back to my car and pick up my darn card because the club said, look, if you're gonna, the forum was one of the examples. If you're coming in here, you gotta show the card. And once I learned that, it wasn't a big deal, but we can do things like that, that really, and our members will, I think they understand.
And they have an automatic little thing that they could just do your card.
You know, and maybe these are, I mean, having it on here, it lets Scott know and lets us know that he'll come back in with this for us to decide. I mean, do we want all centers locked down?
Yes.
Do we want chips put in our heads or our butts? Or,
So they're in the
yeah.
card.
Do we want to take the guest cards and make them $200 instead of $75? Do we want people who rent their units to have to buy tenant cards they get left there? And I think these are all questions that we can't answer today.
Right.
But Carol, that answers it, that continue to explore and
Right.
find solutions answers that.
I want to make
Okay,
sure
BJ, oh, sorry.
we are at this bullet right here, correct?
We're on the fourth bullet down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
Good.
somebody else.
Good. Yeah, there's a
Because I-
lot of things that absolutely, I think,
What are SOPs?
if we want to.
Standard operating
Thank
procedures.
you. So you're gonna develop this comprehensive handbook this year? Did you know that?
What did he say I was gonna do?
I thought I read that somewhere too.
Yeah.
This
right there.
right
1, 2,
here?
3, 4, 5, 6.
Membership SOPs.
7 down.
Mm. Membership SOPs.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
membership.
Yeah, that's the
department.
membership
And that gonna
department.
fall under,
A different
That's really-
department.
I don't know.
That's his
I don't-
team.
Is that
This is
your
the first
team?
I've noticed this. Is that under membership, should membership be doing that?
Well, it says membership SOPs. So Chris Zubicki, I am assuming added this, but let's double check with her.
Okay.
if it's something that you're not gonna be able to do, then let's not have it in here.
Yeah. so-
I don't, personally, I don't think it's that big of a deal and will save that department a lot of time and trouble.
I'm just
When you get
curious,
down to
what,
it.
if you have any idea what he meant by membership standard operating procedures, because you mean the public, not this. that-
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna think that she's probably wanting to put together processes and procedures for her own staff
For
that
the
are,
department.
that are
Mhm.
Right,
updated.
that's different.
I'm not even sure this needs to be
I'm
here,
not
but it
sure
really
it needs to
falls
be here,
under the initiative up top, which is making sure that we've got quality assurance systems in place to ensure customer service is happening.
Training employees, so that would be part of it.
Yeah, and using, this is kind of the phone conversation about when Rochelle from Desert Hills calls. We need those kinds of standard operating procedures when our RSAs call and they say who they are. This is my title, I'm with GVR. That type of thing is really what this points to.
Okay?
Before you move, I have one more question.
Oh, I just went to page 8.
I'm sorry,
Okay, go
just
ahead.
real quick.
Go ahead.
The very last item on page 7, 2.1.2, explore a varied activity service structure that accommodates all income levels. I thought we could have different structures. I mean,
Well, you
it
can
looks
have
like-
different fee structures. This is really, we don't even have a bullet for this year. And
So
I
this should
can't
be taken out.
remember exactly why we don't have a bullet for this one this year.
So are you saying
The-
2.1.2 should just go away, Scott?
Well, it's still an
It's in this-
initiative, but you know
It's in
what?
this-
Let's look at what it says, 2.1.1, which is right above it.
It's this is again why
I like
I
the
reviewed the
orange.
strategic plan. It needs to be updated because it's in here, which is probably why you wrote it down.
No, it's already addressed earlier in the
It's right here.
document. Just scroll up to 2.1.1.
It's right here.
Yeah.
It's why it says C
Right above-
2.1.1.
Right above it.
Yeah,
There
I
it
know,
is.
but I don't see where accommodating all income levels is.
Well, that's where,
Specify
if we're
that.
through member surveys, identifying gaps and needed adjustments. So
Right.
for example, one of the items that we have identified through our post-event surveys is that our dinner and a show offerings are too cheap and yucky for some people. They want to have an upgraded option. So they want to
Oh.
have a ticket tiers
Okay.
option where they're gonna get Budweiser and a burger for this amount, and they're gonna get, the steak and bourbon on the other
Right.
ticket
Gotcha.
amount.
Okay,
So
I'm
then,
sorry, I didn't realize.
That's really what that
right,
is
Okay.
about.
that's in response to
Sticking
member feedback.
Okay,
So we leave it in there.
Yeah.
Here we go, 1
I
second.
think you do.
Okay, I'm still on this page. I think a very important one down here, under Recreation Department, under 1.4.1. What's not here, and the goal is on, I just looked at the goal. Anyway, the goal is social gathering. So I think they need a bullet that talks to things like growing usage of the clubhouse social gathering facilities through mini programs, social activities, functions, and measuring the usage, taking user surveys to understand program popularity and possible areas of improvement. And I know you're doing a lot of that, Natalie, but that to me is far more important than the coffee shop, right? The coffee shop is just one of many, many things we could do there.
Well, we can only do so many things in 1 year. I mean, that's why it's a 5-year plan, I guess.
Well, I think that is, and maybe the board at some point, we keep delaying the vote, but I think the board will say that social gathering, it has been from the beginning, has been the most important thing to do in that
The
club.
board already said that they want Del Sol to be social
Right.
gathering.
right.
So can you say
November
here, explore opportunities to establish a social gathering facility and then just period, and then that way that encompasses both the coffee shop and the football game.
You could say IE, including a coffee shop, et cetera.
Yeah,
Well, coffee shop's a maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
A
can
total
we
maybe.
change that? Nellie,
Yeah.
okay with that?
All of this is a maybe, but this is what's in your
Here's the guy.
initiative right now. 1.2.3 under facilities is research and develop recommendations for providing food and beverages in certain areas. The bullet for this year is explore and recommend in-house or vendor options for the Del Sol Clubhouse. We're
Where did
hoping
you
we can
go?
get that done in March.
Facility.
Yeah, that's
We're
under
going
facilities.
backwards.
Because
Page
it's
is
referenced right there. It
did,
says
if you
see
look
at-
facilities.
Back to facilities.
You've got to
where they
look
have
at the
children.
reference.
Can't go backwards.
My gosh,
Well,
you should meet my husband. You guys would be perfect.
So this started under recreation, 1.4.1.
But Scott, I think what we're saying is that fits along with that, but if you leave it more open-ended, explore opportunities to establish a social gathering facility, like Bev said, you could say i.e. coffee shop, whatever. And then that leaves it a little more open-ended and easier for your staff to try to reach.
yeah, and you gotta
Well,
explore opportunities for coffee
and I-
shop over here on the other page.
Dick?
I think the terminology have evolved back when we were talking coffee shop. And then we refined that to the broader term, social
Social
gathering space.
gathering.
So this might be just a tad archaic, so.
We didn't invite you to that meeting.
So I just want to remind everyone,
I'm just
Then-
being dragged along behind.
Never know what.
hold on. I just want to remind everybody, the numbers themselves are existing language that doesn't change for 5 years unless you want to change it. It's your plan. The bullets are the things that we have actually changed and added to. So for 1.2.3, which is under facilities, if you want to add, explore additional social gathering opportunities, then we can add that there. Or we can look in some other place. I'm fairly confident in these 9 pages, there is something in here that already talks about social gathering,
Mhm.
but I can't remember off the top of my head where it is.
I'll tell you what, we're not gonna spend any more time on page 7. Scott, figure it out and how you want to say it. We'll go to 8,
Remember,
okay?
1.4 is the major.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to page 8. Okay. It's just.
1.4.1.
You have
I'm looking
5
at
minutes.
1.4.
I'm looking at the time schedule. I'm supposed to be done with this at 3. Oh,
2 minutes.
2 minutes. I'm supposed to be done with this at 3:20.
I have no questions.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, where are we?
Questions?
Not on
Hey,
this page. You guys are really good.
Okay,
All right, no
recreation.
questions down at this end. Does anybody else have any questions on page
Give
8?
me just a second to look here.
Nope.
Now, Scott, you will make what changes you need to make, correct? And
That I
then
can remember.
what you bring up to the board, do we have to adopt these in a
Yes.
board session?
Correct. You adopt this as the plan
Okay,
for 24,
Next meeting.
and that gives me the direction that these are the things we're working on.
okay, so will this be on our next agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it
Okay,
is.
does that give you enough time, Nancy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Why Nancy?
Because
She has to do the, she has
She
to do
does
all.
all, she does everything.
Power is.
No. Okay, the next
We're on board.
section,
Does that mean I can close this out now?
yeah,
Yes.
and we thank you.
No.
Yeah.
Just want to say, I really
Funny
like
video.
3.1.3 on
Don't
page
start your
8.
comments with. That's a hot tip.
Talk to members who are having these cards and find out why, and if there's
Oh.
a reason that would entice them, to really.
Yeah, that was something that we added this year.
Which one?
That was,
3.1.3
thing.
on page 8.
Survey members
Oh,
have
yeah,
not
so
used
the
their
virtual-
GVR card and
Yeah,
ask
that's a
and
great
figure
idea.
out why.
Oh.
Right here, survey.
Oh, yeah,
You
right.
don't bring it to-
What about
Can you just
Survey them and.
how can we
Which is great.
encourage you to?
So they just brought attention.
I did.
Yeah.
We talked about background checking. I'd suggest that you do fingerprint printing too, and it can be done so easily at SAP. They have a really good machine, and it's a way of checking what their criminal background is.
For whom?
Contractor?
Contract.
Could be, could be contractors, could be employees.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
well,
ought to be
some
employees.
I don't know, I
Yeah.
thought the
We do
mob
it- we
always
do it at
controlled the
La
contract.
Posada. We
I
even
thought
have
the
a
mob
TB
ran some
test.
contracting
And
companies.
fingerprint.
A TB test?
I had my fingerprints
We're
removed.
gonna
used to have
test
to
for
do that.
TV.
They used to have to do that at students.
Well, we'll have to do something with
Okay.
codes.
Okay, so Carol,
Elected
are you and Natalie dancing to this?
Yes,
facility?
yes, I am starting.
And I'm gonna
Reservation
hand out something, I'm passing something around that's part of this, so please take one.
Did I get one last time?
And while they're
Oh, no,
passing
it's
out,
got-
let me
a
just give an
little different now.
Yeah,
overview, if
I
we can
see,
do two
yes,
things at
okay,
once.
Thank you.
Think we can do that, board?
That's what's around.
All right, now I got a new,
Yeah.
I've got one. You've
I got a
got
question
one,
on
you've
each
got
language.
one. You've got a bunch.
Background investigation of the law. You don't know what you mean by subordinating benefits.
Okay, well, we're gonna let Carol.
Yeah,
pick it
let me
up.
just kick this off. Natalie kind of came to the BAC, gosh, it's gotta be 3 or 4 months ago. A little, asking for help from a policy standpoint on rooms, because that can be a nightmare to try to schedule the rooms. And we learned yesterday, the sporting facilities, which we just didn't connect. But, so it's rooms and sporting facilities. We concentrate our effort in the BAC of thinking about room reservations and what should be the priority and so forth. So with a lot of input from Natalie and some from her staff, we reviewed and in most cases accepted the recommendations from Natalie on how we might change the CPM to give her a little bit better support and have fairer policies. That's what we tried to think of from a BAC standpoint. What's the fairest way to move ahead in terms of room reservations? And now Natalie wants to, she thought she was telling us recreational facilities too. So we had a bit of a discussion of that on yesterday. And with that, is that enough intro? Natalie?
Works for me.
Okay, it's,
Okay.
pass it over to Natalie.
So there was a question right away on the background the first thing I want to say is that I would like you to disregard background justification 1.2.6A1D. That's maybe the third paragraph looking thing. BAC and staff agreed that we are not going to consider limiting club reservations at this time.
1B.
So just line through that.
B.
Right.
Is it D or B?
It says GVR's club application are the first three words of that.
126A1D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at what just got handed out, this is a summary of all of the changes to the policy that are being proposed. And this is a much easier document to reference when we're just, skimming over it. And so the one I'm asking you to disregard is the one that I included under item 3 and is struck out on your summary.
Yeah.
And then Bev had a question about what? What was your? Item number 4, under background justification. A few existing policies were needlessly restricted or subordinating, this is where members had to come ask us permission to do things that we shouldn't be granting permission for. If you want to have some beer while you're playing cards with your friends, you shouldn't have to ask us if you can do that.
Okay. But you do have to invite the board.
Only if they bring their own.
You can do that, can't we?
Well, I'm glad I can bring my gun when I use my drugs on GVR.
We did not strike that policy.
It's
Sorry.
Natalie, what is the purpose, before you get into all of this stuff? I read through every single page, and I don't know if the rest of them felt the same thing. What is the purpose? Are you trying to raise more money? Are you, which you won't make a lot of, are you trying to stomp down on people so that they can't do things? Or, I mean, what is the purpose behind all these pages of red?
Okay, so trying to schedule virtually anything at GVR has become increasingly difficult over the years.
Because of the software or because of the people?
Because of our policies, because our policies have been inordinately permissible. I don't know, even know what word. Bart can help me with the word I need there. Permissive,
Overly liberal, I would say.
overly liberal. We don't have,
Inconsistent?
for example, we don't have a competitor that provides meeting rooms for free to members. If you want to reserve a meeting room, you pay a rental fee. GVR has no rental fees for member activities at all. And we have a lot of groups that have taken full advantage of that permission and are meeting very, very frequently. Sometimes for extended periods of times, we have groups that will reserve an auditorium from 7 a.m. in the morning until 9 p.m. at night because they want one crew to come in and do decorations, and then they have to go home and shower and change, play tennis first or whatever. But they reserve the whole space because we don't have a policy that says, well, you can't do that because then no one can use it in the morning while you're showering and playing tennis. So what we have are, the justifications are sort of here. Our reservation policies were not adequately prioritizing recreation programs. Certainly, one of the issues that we're not really going to address too much today were our clubs. And a lot of our members are non-club members, and we receive regular complaints that people can't get into commonly held amenities because the clubs have reserved those spaces. But we'll talk about a little bit about clubs here in a bit. There were key policies that were missing that our reservation staff were just kind of stuck with. Like if you're an individual and you want to just reserve a room for an hour a day for a couple of weeks, we don't have a policy that says you can't do that. So that's one person in a meeting room designed as a multi-purpose space for several people who has the right currently because we have a lack of policy. And so if you look at on our new website, that fabulous feature that Connell put together where you can see what activities are being planned in any given center, it's just a wall of color. So we're full. 100% full. So if we want to do a pop-up party, if we have members who are coming in who have new ideas about how they might want to use things, there's no capacity for that. And it's very resource intensive. A reservation typically involves at least 4 staff members just to make a reservation.
Can you give an example of a member without naming names that reserved a room at East Center recently to watch
videos.
videos?
Yeah, 11 days of.
Tell us more about that
That's it.
briefly.
An individual.
One individual reserved
Wow.
a meeting room to watch
To watch
videos
videos. Yeah,
rather than at that member's
for
home.
11 days in a row.
Wow.
And we don't have a policy against that. We also have a person who has been reserving a space at Abrego South 3 days a week for years. So
Good
that she
thing
can watch an exercise
Good thing
video.
there's no
An exercise.
beds in any of those.
Trust me, that's.
It's bizarre.
I know, it's silly.
Beds.
You guys are.
How this got away from us.
And one woman, that it kind of started out with, one woman said, oh, Kanoa Hills, they have tables set up in the lobby.
Mhm.
Well, when it finally came down to it, she didn't mean Kanoa Hills, she meant the Del Clubhouse, and we're like, that's closed until June or July.
No, all those tables are at Canoa
Canoa Hills
Hills.
does have
So they
tables
do.
with
Yeah, we
chairs.
do.
So that would have, but that would be available for anybody in the lobby.
Mhm.
So we wouldn't know until we got there if we could play there, right?
Right.
So that's the other.
Well, there's a
problem.
zillion tables, trust me, there's
Yeah,
room for you,
so-
but.
Yeah.
So what happens, what happens if the website or the app says that this room is vacant?
Mhm.
So I grab a bunch of you guys and we decide to come down and play cards,
Mhm.
and we get here and she's having a party in here.
Mhm.
First
You
call.
know, you're gonna get, we, the board and you, the staff, are going to get some horrible feedback on this. Feedback you don't want. So you don't publish that you can use them unless it's real time. I mean, if I real time can go on that app and say, it's mine.
If you reserve it.
Well, see, that's
Right, that's a
actually,
different story.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
Marge-
the whole,
yeah,
that's
we-
all part of what you're doing here. I mean, I looked at these numbers and all you gave us were the HOAs. And the HOAs that are violating any policy are all, they're all condos, they're all townhouses. Casa Paloma 1 has 256 units. They have a clubhouse and a pool.
Yeah.
Why did they use 11 social times in one of our facilities?
that's exactly
and
why we're trying to
7
change
meetings.
things, Marge.
Well, yeah, but you can say that, except that then you have others like Desert Hills 2 has 613. They didn't do any socials and they had 10 meetings. You're gonna restrict them? I just think you guys are asking.
I thought they were just restricting the social, not.
Well, they're restricting the socials, but the Springs, Bart,
Okay,
Um,
don't get me, all I do is pay dues.
they had 14 socials. And then had 7 meetings. They do a lot of socials. Do it in the parking lot, will you? I mean,
I think those are the monthly potlucks, which I don't attend, but
if
they're
we
there.
need, and I asked this question before, if we need more space, we shouldn't be saying that the HOAs can't meet until after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or the clubs. We should say, what is it gonna cost to make more rooms if that's what we need? And is it only certain times of the day? I mean, you guys are the ones that are gonna get the nasty emails.
And some HOAs have their own little facility
Yes.
that they can entertain in, we don't.
We don't either.
Yeah,
We don't either.
we've had a bit, I'm sorry, Beth, go ahead.
Go ahead,
I'm just wondering, why do HOAs have a special relationship to facilities?
They shouldn't. That's exactly what I was gonna talk about. We have no obligation to HOAs. We try to be good partners and neighbors in this case, but HOAs do not pay dues. Their residents pay
Their
dues to
members
us.
pay.
And and
Yeah.
our obligation, we
Yeah.
believe, and frankly, your policy and your CPM says your obligation is to your members. So that's really what this is about. Why are we allowing HOAs gratis to a great degree for as many meetings, as many socials during prime time as they want? Many HOAs that don't have it so good have to go someplace and rent a room
Right.
for their social or for their regular meetings. So
Yeah.
what we're trying to do is, I think, provide reasonable solutions that allow socials or HOAs to still have socials as well as their regular or annual meeting. We did run this by GBC, since they really function as the broker again for the HOAs in the area, and they were shocked at how liberal our policies were. And they also weren't surprised at how much, people, others, certain groups have taken advantage of them. And so they actually argued that we should be charging for each HOA event, and we backed off on that a little bit and went to what was being recommended. But Yeah, there really, there's not all that many facilities, and I'm not sure that we have the funds to build more facilities, especially to accommodate HOAs that aren't paying us.
Yeah.
Well, the members are, but what we tried to do, Marge, and we spent a lot of time, and Natalie spent a ton of time on this.
I was listening.
It was to try to figure out what's the fair, best approach. And there are going to be concerns raised. But, and board, you know, the reason we're reviewing this, if you see something we missed or something more important, that's why we're reviewing it. The other piece that I was horrified by are these so-called 3-month reservations, where someone can walk in and reserve a room for 3 months in a row. And there's a whole ton of people that were doing that, and that just blocks up everything too. So what we were trying to figure out is what's the fairest way we can use the resource that we have. And Natalie had a lot of good recommendations, and that's what we tried to come up with.
You know, I listened into the board affairs. I don't know how many, I think you were here. And I listened to what you guys were saying, and it didn't sound to me like everybody was 100% behind some of this. But I think we have to look at this carefully as a board, because to me, when I read through this, and I read through it twice, and each time I came up with something different. And it's gonna come back on us. We're the ones that have to adopt this thing. And is the problem the scheduling? Is the problem the scheduling program? You can't say yes, maybe you can say to an HOA, I'm gonna charge you to use this room. You're not, but you can't say, well, you can't get it until after 2 and it has to be before 6. You know,
What's
maybe
wrong
you
with
can.
2 to 6? I mean,
Yeah,
what's
why
wrong with
not?
that?
Well, because not all of them do that, you know, but you can say, I mean, I think we can say some things. If you're gonna target HOAs, which is what this is doing, is targeting the HOAs, then you have to look at and see how many violators are there. I mean, yeah, you have 53% of the HOAs are the ones that do the meetings or schedule social. Out of all of them, and
They're
only
allowed to.
12%
There is no
are gonna
policy
be
on it.
affected by the 2 free socials per year. And maybe that's okay, but I think this is overkill. I'm just real worried about this, guys. I ran. Go ahead.
I have a problem with the restriction of 2 per year. Our HOA, with 125 houses or something like that, never did anything socially until last year when a new president came in and his wife agreed to try to establish some social things. And so now we're doing, you know, there's a soup night, there's a potluck night, and I shouldn't say at night, there was a cookie thing in the morning. We say in GVR, we want to make sure that the people that aren't using GVR facilities are using them because they need to get out and about. Well, the soup and chili night that we had a month ago, I saw people I've never seen before in our neighborhood. I can almost guarantee you that they are not the people that are using GVR facilities. And this is their one social event of the month, or maybe even 2 months, because we don't do things every single month. But if you're gonna say, we can't have the meeting room because you've already had your 2 and it's gonna cost you whatever the fee is, have you decided on a fee? Our HOA might not be able to do that because we just repaved our streets last year.
And they're
There might
all
not be-
deed restricted houses.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we might not be able to afford it or to justify spending the money on a room.
Being on the BAC, I think this is the 4th time I've seen this presentation, and what it got started was we were clogged up. Natalie, you had a graph that showed reservations, I forget what center it was. And it was like, say, from 8 to 5, 6 days a week, and it was totally red, green, blue, clogged up. And the reason Natalie brought this to us was she needed a resolution on some of the lax rules. We are clogged up as far as utilization goes. And this is the 4th iteration of this. It's been very well thought out and hammered. And if we don't approve it, I think Katie bar the door.
Well, let me ask this though. I mean, do we have to go with all of this? I mean, do we want to look at use and maybe limit the amount of time that they can rent, you know? I mean, if Bev wants to have a party, she only has 3 hours to have it in, and then she's gotta get her butt out of there. But then in between, and this was the thing that I found out today, in between, they allow an hour for staff to tear it down and set up for the next group. So it's not that it's back-to-back stuff. I mean, you know, it's. And everybody has a priority. It's just, it seems to me like we're really focusing on what the HOAs do. Now you've backed off of the clubs. I was gonna say HOA.
They're
What
not,
about,
but they're not our members.
It's not just HOAs though, it's all
I mean, there are
private
members,
members.
they
They are our
pay the
members.
same amount of
Yeah.
money. When you think about it, I have 88 homes in my HOA and every single one of them pays $500 a year. You know, what do they get if we start pulling services back? You know, and Bev's right. I mean, you've got some HOAs who can afford it and others who can't.
I don't think it's so much pulling services back, it's better utilizing the facilities.
Well, then why don't you control the people who are using cards illegally?
Well, that's
That's not
another
the
whole.
issue.
Yeah,
that's not the
they're
issue.
using the facility.
No, we're talking meetings.
Anytime you're gonna have rules, you're gonna have abusers. That's just human nature, unfortunately.
But if this goes through, we can only have 2 socials a year?
Well, you gotta limit, well,
Then you have to pay.
go someplace else.
That we have to pay.
I mean, why not, rather than throw the baby out with the bathwater, look at maybe increasing it to 3? But right now,
Or even
There's-
6, make it every other.
there's
month.
no policy, so an HOA can have 14 or 15 socials a year. So we're trying to be, as I said, good partners.
I think you need to refine the policy. This
well, number
This might be
two,
a little bit too restrictive, but
Number
again,
two
we've
here.
been through 4 iterations of this and talked about all of these subjects, and this is
number two here,
the
Natalie,
best solution so far.
number two would cover, seems to me, a lot of the abuse by individual members for watching videos and whatnot.
That resolves that problem.
Yeah, what percentage do you think number two helps? I mean,
Well, right now, 3-month groups there's no limit. You can
Yeah.
rent, you can reserve a room 3 or 4 or 5 days a week.
Yeah.
For 3 months at a time, for 4 or 5 people to play cards or read a book or watch an exercise video.
well, that's,
Where did 3-month
Sure,
groups
read
come
groups.
from? Did the board approve that?
They've been around for as long as everybody
It's
can
named in the
remember.
CPM,
Right.
isn't it?
There's one reference
Yeah.
to 3-month groups
Yeah.
of the CPM. Wouldn't it be great just to line through that?
Yeah.
So that maybe we would then grandfather to some extent the existing 3-month groups, but nobody else could come along.
You know, do we have, being a numbers person, do we have any kind of report coming to the board that has day and time of day and meetings versus classes versus clubs for
Or
use? I
calendar.
mean, do you know how much each of them are using before we center on any one in particular? I mean,
Well, it's the policy doesn't focus on anyone in particular. It
well, it sure
focuses
feels that
on,
way.
well, but it says regardless of, it says private member functions. We do a lot of birthday parties. We have people doing dances. But there are a lot of private member functions, not just the HOAs by any means. There's just a lot of it. And then we have
Do you know what
the.
those numbers are? I mean, can you tell the board compared to what you gave us here?
Mhm.
is it 30%? Is it
Yeah,
40%?
what do the others do? I know this is probably, you can't answer it today. It's just that when I look at this, I think to myself, guys, we're the ones that are gonna get the brunt of this. You know, and staff's gonna get part of it. I was on the board when we moved the priorities around. And there was a big hoopla because some people got moved down in the priority list. Do you remember that, Gail? I mean, it was like, and they were angry and they were upset because they paid the same amount. And you can say HOAs don't pay anything. But their members do, they are members.
Yeah.
Not all of them necessarily.
I would
Yeah,
point
they-
out,
Yeah, most
Yes,
HOAs
they are. They use
are
the
all
facilities.
Are
deeded property.
deeded.
all
Yeah.
deeded
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
The
And
ones
we
that
can't
aren't
get
can't
out.
use the facilities.
Yeah.
I mean, mine isn't, and we can't use GVR because we have members
Is there
that
any way to
aren't.
scale it by size of HOA? I mean, there's a big difference between a 50 or 60 unit HOA and a one that's got 200 or 300 or 400 or more.
Are there any?
I realize that would be probably.
What
I
is
know
it?
in
Pain in the ass.
And look at this, you have the ones who are violating. the
There's
use.
no
They're not
policy.
violating.
They're not
Yeah.
violating
Yeah.
anything. That's the
But the ones
point.
who are using
They
the
might be
models
taking
are
advantage.
townhouses,
They
they're
will if
not
we can.
single family units, they're
They'll
not
violate.
single family homes. They are the unit, they are
Well, if you want to argue,
They are
right.
GBR members.
if you want to argue, Madeira Vista is townhouses and they only use it 3 times. So, I mean, I don't know that you can make an argument. It just seems to me that, first of all, I think what Natalie's asking and what I think has to happen is that policies have to be set. Because otherwise there's inconsistent, you know, and that when the person whose supposed job it is to say whether you can use it or not, it all comes down onto that person. She doesn't have a policy to refer to. Second of all, I think we're getting a little too, personally, I think we're getting a little too bent out of shape about HOAs. I mean, I think our primary responsibility is to individual members of GBR. And also just realistically, something has to be done in terms of the use of the space. And so, I mean, maybe not exactly the way it's been presented here, maybe there's some tweaks you can make, but it seems like we actually have to do something in terms of a policy, rather than constantly arguing in favor of HOAs.
Could we
It
at
doesn't
least
seem to me the
Could
right
we
direction.
use to 6 times per year, so you could have a meeting every other
Or
month?
could you,
social event every month?
yeah, or could you just start with some small steps, like let people know that you can only have 6 socials a year. And after that, we're gonna charge you for the use, or let them know that they can, you know, there are some HOAs and there are some clubs and there are some groups that meet weekly or monthly. You know, and we could can we start smaller and kind of build them into it? I'm just afraid this thing is so overpowering. It overpowered me. That's a good way to put it, right?
Sure.
Yeah, to like.
You know,
it's sleeping.
my concern is my HOA doesn't use this. We pay, and we don't have to pay for Friends Indeed. And I have people asking me, can we not use this out here? Look at all the ones that if it comes out, they can use it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of HOAs that
There
aren't
are.
using it. And that's been suggested to me, find out, do we use it?
Yeah, and you know, there are facilities, there's a meeting room that's over, I don't know, I found this by accident. And it's over at the Safeway complex, it's on the back side where the offices are, it's on the
upstairs,
second floor. And you can rent that.
Do they
Or
have an
you can
elevator?
rent that. Yeah, they have an
Yeah, they
elevator.
do.
Friends Indeed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are other facilities, but I'm just, I think this is over. This is so strong. I'm not trying to say HOAs only. I think we need to think carefully before we jump too hard into this.
Yeah,
And maybe like Bart says, we get rid of this 3-month group so that Kathy can't take her group and make one for the next 3 months.
There are 97 3-month groups.
Really?
Really?
Wow.
See, it's a killer. That to me, it's the killer.
3 months,
Yeah.
I don't
What you
understand.
did is
The
a
3-month
3-month group.
groups.
Okay, except it isn't.
So you didn't reserve on a regular basis
No,
for an
just one
extent.
time.
So a 3-month group is a group of people who play cards, for example, or get together with their reading group. The Amigas Club has a lot of 3-month groups. They get together to watch a yoga video and do yoga together. There's a lot of different things they do. And they can reserve a room several times a week for up to 3 months at a time. And it can be anyone, as few as one person currently by our practice, there's no policy.
Right, and we're concerned about HOAs coming unglued.
Yeah.
I think the 3-month groups are gonna come unglued too.
Well, and
Well,
they're doing
everybody's gonna come
recreation,
up.
right?
Well, right,
That's
so
the other
that's-
thing, was
that's
trying
the
to
thing.
prioritize recreation.
Well, and I think so are the HOA social groups. They're doing socialization, which I do think is important.
I recognize that, but we're not the only social venue in town. There are restaurants in a lot of places, church is a social thing, our clubs, our sports. It's not like going to dinner at GBR is the only social activity that is available to an
For some
HOA.
people,
And I think part of the challenge is, we've had, based on the policy, our priority has been our members, our events, our activities. This is an HOA, so it's really a very specific organization that's having an event that isn't opened up to all GVR members. I think that's been part of the issue and maybe why it's been prioritized the way it is.
I'm curious of, if we were to, create the new rules that you're proposing, how many of the HOAs would actually be affected? I mean, some of them are obvious, but it seems to me that most of them, it wouldn't affect the way that they've been operating
Right.
for years. Am I right about
Correct.
that?
You are correct. And most of the HOAs do meet after 2 or on the weekend. So it really doesn't have a profound effect on the HOAs, which is why I included that sheet. It's just an example of it was an easy report to pull because we actually designate those in our database as HOA activities.
Well, and there's one detail that I'm not sure I understand correctly. But if an HOA is using a GVR room for a social, like the potlucks that I've described, but if it happens after 2, would it be affected by the new rule or would it not be affected by the new?
That only applies to business meetings for clubs and HOAs. So that was an effort to prioritize recreation so that we don't have business meetings by entities happening when we really should be scheduling classes.
But do you schedule,
But
how do we know we're scheduling classes up until 2:00? How many classes do you schedule up till 2:00? Why did you pick
I don't-
2 instead of 1?
I looked at when the activity tapers off in the centers. And that's where I worked with recreation and we pulled our attendance records and said right around 2:00, attendance tends to taper off.
From people who are recreating.
People who are in that
Taking
center,
naps,
whether
Marge.
they're
From use.
Right,
Just
right,
use.
that's when activity in the centers tends to taper off. So that's considered off-peak time and on the weekends. It really plummets. So all of those hours are available.
Yeah, and I might say that I think Scott's idea of maybe we start with 3 or 4, you'll have to advise us instead of 2 if that's really a dramatic change. But when we looked at this, if it's a social activity, we have our weekends, they're almost empty. Couldn't the HOA do it on the weekend? I mean, and maybe we even have a motivator for the first year. You get your 4th one free if you go on the weekend. I mean, then the HOA that's a poor HOA can make a choice. That might be a solution too.
Our social events have only been in the evening anyway, and they're usually.
They almost all are.
hours.
Socials are almost always in
And
the.
there's,
Well, you walk through, like I walked through Las Campanas this morning on my way to work. And when I came in, they were setting up the big room, the very big room at the end, and they had 1 table in there. And they had 4 people at
Well,
that
that's
one table.
exactly
And
what
it's a
she's trying to
huge room.
avoid.
That's exactly.
So maybe rather than all of this stuff, we have to identify, if you don't have this number of people, you can't use those big rooms.
Scott, can you look at the website and share your screen? Do you have that capacity?
I should be able to. Let me pull up the website.
I mean, that could have been a drop-in for one thing, because we don't reserve the rooms for very small, we don't reserve the big rooms for very small groups. Although the Juniper room is really underutilized usually because of noise coming in from the auditorium. So it's possible that we did have some, small, if you're talking about Juniper, which is the carpeted room next to the patio.
So
No.
Canoa Hills, the lobby would be a better spot for our ladies to play cards.
Yeah,
And is it usually
There's-
open?
oh gosh, there's 13 or 14 tables in there, maybe 17. All the tables came out of Canoa, we took all of them out of Del Sol.
Is this on, which level is this on? Because I guess I don't know what we're talking.
Canoa Hills?
Yeah,
It's just
she's
all
very
the-
happy
Oh,
though.
Canoa Hills.
GBR member.
As you walk in the lobby.
So the lobby where he was playing jazz.
Right.
Okay, those tables that were there that
Mhm.
week,
Don't
those
even
are
know
always
if she's
shared?
in
Yeah.
or if
Oh,
this
so we
is
could play there.
Yeah.
Anytime you
Any
want.
photos, I'm
Because I
not quite sure.
Prefer that to that vacant room with 3 tables in it.
Mhm.
So I'll talk to them and maybe.
I do recognize.
Can you go to
some
centers and
people.
reservations, please?
Yes, where the heck is it?
It's
Here
the
it is.
dark blue one.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
And then
Okay.
scroll down to Las Campanas. I'm just curious what was going on there this morning.
You have to
So
click
on-
that one.
No, on
first,
the
don't
map
you?
right there, you can just click Las
Okay.
Campanas. The words Las
Number
Campanas on the
5.
sidebar.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh,
Oh, there was a
And then
hummingbird
if we scroll
convention.
that
Oh,
down
nice.
to keep going, keep going. So this is what was happening at Las Campanas this morning.
From 8 to
Um,
9, 8 to 9.
9 to 12
Zumba
racquetball
Goals,
club.
That's what was happening in Agave and Ocotillo. So that will pretty much
Zumba
fill that
Gold?
room up. That's a class.
The racquetball club for 3 hours?
But it's in the racquetball
That's in the
center.
racquetball
Right.
center. I mean, that's the racquetball court.
Oh, that's not
Yeah,
it.
there's a building.
Right, the club
Zumba?
has.
No, it wasn't Zumba.
Oh, okay, yeah, right.
So it was this
There's
one
an
right here,
HOA
Agave
meeting.
Ocotillo. Yeah, this was the Zumba class from 8 to 9, is that
Mhm.
it?
That's the only thing I see scheduled this morning.
It was.
In
it
those-
was
in the
about
large
9
room.
It was around 9:15 when I went in.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
then
so it
that-
would have been wrapping that up.
Scratch
So maybe
board.
people that
Scratch
aren't
board.
involved.
That's, if you're bored, you often scratch.
Oh, okay.
That's what those people do.
You know, do you?
New
have the
minor forcing
information
defense
so
against
we
no
know
Trump.
How much of the
What is that?
facilities
Wait, go
are
back to that. That's very
classes
interesting.
And how many are for
No,
club use?
new
How many
minor
meetings are
forcing
being held?
defense
I mean, I
against
just
no
don't feel like
Trump.
I
That's
have
a
enough
bridge.
information.
At least I
to hang
believe
my
it is.
hat
I'm not a
on
bridge
all these
player.
Right, you're right.
No,
I
so
didn't read that.
apologize.
I was trying to
I
read
would-
that
I
another
would ask what
way.
So can we just go through and find the changes that are acceptable and narrow this conversation down a little bit? Because I'm.
You ready to kill us?
Well, I just don't know where to go from here because there's 15 changes, 16 changes that you
Number
recommended.
7 kill me, then they
Mhm.
can have a memorial for free.
That's true.
All right, check off number 7.
And that's just a quiet practice
Keep it.
that the staff have
Keep
had
it.
for years, and I thought it was nice, and we should like have it out there for
All
our
right,
members
so we
to
agree with
see.
7.
Number 8, no commercial rentals?
Yeah, number 8's good.
We'll check off that, as long as you don't see an HOA as a commercial.
Can we start at the top? How do we feel about 1?
Imagine starting.
Change the
with one.
propriety order. First club one time and-
So Natalie, with number 1, wasn't it the artisans that were yelling because they couldn't get the venue they wanted, or? Somebody was yelling
Is
about
that the
that.
one where they're all sitting around?
They were complaining about not getting this room to store their stuff. whether
Right.
Purses or whatever,
Right.
because they said they're disabled people and so they can't use the
Oh.
stairs to go up on stage. And start things.
Right.
And
Oh.
and
Yeah,
they were
that's
complaining about
different.
signage.
For like the artisan show that we
Right.
usually
Yeah,
have
right.
that.
So where would you put this priority to include club one-time annual special events? In the,
It's in that priority list that's been in the one that you rearranged years ago and everybody had a fit.
you want us to rearrange it again so they can
Yeah.
have another fit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this time,
Make it right.
the club one-time annual special events won't cause a fit. This is where we can actually say the Artisans Festival will happen on the 3rd weekend in February
Yeah.
So you
forever.
can reserve it for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but where would you put that? Right under governance?
It's,
Look
item
on page
3.
11, Marge.
Yeah. Essential corporate business is number 1.
Okay.
2 are recreation programs. 3 is club one-time annual special events. And right now, there's only 4 of those that I'm aware
Okay,
of. And then regularly scheduled club activities. then HOA. So that's the only thing that's really changed. And then I wanted to take off the club additional ongoing activity request because it's nonsensical. The way that's been implemented is that, and I'm just gonna use some air quotes here, is that after all the reservations come in, for years, the rule was that clubs could have 2 reservations per week. It's on the club application that you can have 2 reservations per week.
Right.
But then at some point later, this was added and it became the operating policy, for lack of a better word, is that after all the other reservations came in, clubs could say, well, we want a 3rd and a 4th and a 5th. But there is no after all the reservations come in. Reservations are being made every day, all the time,
And the clubs
So-
signed their new agreements in January or
Mhm.
February,
in January.
or January. So if we're gonna make any changes to their agreement, now would be the time for us to do that.
Well, the agreement says
Next
2,
year.
right?
Okay, how does that
Yeah.
go back to what we were speaking about yesterday in terms of, I mean, there are some clubs who meet more than 3 or 4 times a week,
Mhm.
and so does that fall under additional ongoing activity?
Currently, that's how clubs have developed those multiple.
Right, so you said
Reservations.
we're gonna, when we talked about this earlier, you said we weren't gonna deal with clubs
Right,
because
I
it was
don't-
a.
yeah,
So why,
because I was scared.
why is this, so how is this different than saying clubs are
Line
limited?
dancing.
It doesn't say clubs are limited. I just wanted to get rid of the club additional ongoing activity
Right.
request because there is no after reservations come in.
Just
So
clarifying
there's
what-
no
Okay.
limits put on the clubs
Sometimes
Okay, all right.
people don't go to all of
except
them
for
because
their
it's a
business
huge club.
meetings
Okay, got
happening
it.
after
So
2.
is everybody okay with
But it's
number
just like
1?
tennis. I mean,
Yeah.
you
Okay,
know,
well,
all the
yeah.
girls, they meet.
Great.
And there's like 80 or 90.
Number
people.
2
It's
is,
just
I like
small.
number 2. I don't know about everybody else.
I do too.
Yes.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, that's okay.
It seems reasonable.
Yeah,
That eliminates the one person watching video 6 times a week.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
6 is agreement.
All by himself.
Yeah.
And then number 3, what were you gonna do with that? Did you change that?
I did. I struck it out. I got scared
Okay, so
and said,
number 3
and ran
doesn't
away from it.
exist.
Yes.
You know, I think these are things that, Natalie, that, and I hope you realize I'm not attacking, I'm just concerned about our board being attacked.
We
Well,
are
I'm the
too,
one
which
who
is one
ran
reason we got
chicken
rid
from
of
this
3.
one.
Yeah, I should be used to it by now, right?
Well, and 3, let me
Yeah.
just explain from a BAC standpoint. We didn't understand that one. And we probably would have had some concerns raised if we had understood that she was talking about things like the dirt volleyball court. And we thought she was just talking about meeting rooms. So when you start getting into recreational facilities that are fairly specialized, I think that we do want to let the clubs use it as much as they can, unless we really hear from another group, like this volleyball thing. We got to deal with that. But they're normally, hopefully our overriding goal is maximizing the use of our facility,
Right,
right?
right. Nobody
And
wants to policy us into
Yeah.
empty rooms. That's
Right.
not the point.
Right.
Right.
So are we on number 4?
Number 4.
Yes.
Natalie, are these gonna be the same, is it the same in the winter as it is in the summer? I mean, there's a lot less of us in the summer that wanna use the facility. So is this for year round and then in the summer, we're gonna have empty facilities? Cause.
Well, we do now.
Yeah, you always have.
But that's a good point. I didn't
Even more
consider
so.
seasonal, that we
Yeah.
could say during off-peak, you can have more. Yeah, I didn't even consider seasonal policy.
Yeah, cause now it might be hard compared to, in May, I can get a room anywhere I want, right?
June, probably.
Yeah.
But non-peak kind of addresses that, but it might not hurt to say seasonal.
Right, maybe consider a seasonal provision of some
Yeah,
sort.
that's a good idea.
If you say like even on number 4, clubs and HOA business meetings.
But after 2 PM, I don't see a
No.
problem with that anyway.
Yeah, and I do
But you're
only,
just looking at each HOA's board of directors, correct?
No.
Business.
no, no,
That
no,
meetings,
no,
yeah,
no,
all
no,
business
no,
meetings,
no,
right.
Mentioned what you call it, the ladies, group with, Amigas.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So they've got
Right.
97 clubs, I think you said, so.
Oh, no,
that
that's,
meet-
those are the
oh,
total
some
3-month groups.
Okay,
but-
oh.
No, but
So
we-
that
we
would be
have-
included, that would be included in this, right? Those 3-month groups.
They
So
are
they'd be
considered,
under
they'd be under 5, yeah,
Oh,
2 and
That's
5.
separate from 4, okay.
So they would, their 3-month groups would need to have a minimum of 6 members.
So
And then
if,
they would be limited to 1 reservation per week.
so give me an example of a club that would only be not so on number 4, they wouldn't be restricted on number of times per week, just the time of day.
Right, that's just for business meetings. So
It says
say,
and socials.
No,
no,
versus club
clubs
activities and socials.
Club activities and socials are, don't, this
okay,
is just about their
business.
business
Okay, got
meetings,
it.
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry, I misread that. So I'm okay with that.
Are we good with 4?
Are you gonna add something seasonal or leave it?
I would add seasonal.
You know, actually, the seasonal might help the number, the presentation of the number of meetings they're allowed to have. You're allowed to have only 3 per year or 4 per year, except that we don't count the summer ones, right?
Well, we didn't put any kind of limit on business meetings in
Right.
terms of the number of them.
No,
We just limited them by time, so we could say May through or October through April. You have to have your meetings after 2. May through September, you could have your meetings at 7 AM if you want.
Yeah.
But they can have them anytime, after 2 on weekdays and anytime on weekends.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good
I
addition.
like 1 better than 2. I don't know why.
It's gonna say-
Difficult. I don't like those.
You're gonna put in the October to April and the 10 days
Mhm.
of September instead.
Mhm.
So that's October to April?
Yeah.
Anytime May through September. Okay.
So now we're on number 5. 3-month groups. Now, one thing about 3-month groups that we discussed yesterday, because it seems like we are on a trajectory to get an online reservation system. At least do some, thorough investigation of implementing an online reservation system that would be available for members. After all the classes are in and the governance schedule and stuff like that is implemented and on the calendar, then members could go in and reserve rooms. I don't know how that's gonna work if we're gonna say you need to have 6 attendees in your space. And how we're gonna handle that with an online reservation system. But if we find a solution to that, then 3-month groups would just go away.
Mhm.
Because it's up to you to, just like with the tennis or the pickleball club, you figure out when you can play.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
for
that,
now,
to
we
me,
don't
that would
have
be a
that.
huge solution for a lot of these issues, because
Mhm.
people could look, right? They aren't just arguing with somebody in administration.
Yeah.
They
Right.
can see how busy it is.
Right. But for now, because I think that solution is down the road, we might
Yep.
have to have something designed for us. But for now, this was the proposal.
So on number 5, are you including 6 people or more?
Mhm.
So 3-month groups have to be 6 people or more, and they're limited to 1 per week
Mhm.
and 4 hours per reservation.
Is 4 hours too much?
That's
That
a
seems like an
long
awful
time.
long time.
Well, not really. I mean, I play mahjong and we
Yeah.
play for 4
It's
hours.
like
the
for 4
card, yeah,
hours?
it's the
Okay.
tabletop groups.
My
that-
wife's
Okay.
bridge group uses the room. She's a 3-month group and they're 4 hours playing bridge.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if they can stand it, I guess we'll give it to them.
And
But you can see how
of
the
the
rooms
3-month
fill
groups
up
are
when you
tabletop
get-
game players. And 4 hours seems to be what people need to
Okay.
play those games.
Yeah.
Wait, now, on 5, those are limited to 6 or more?
Mhm.
Yes. Yep.
Maybe,
Where does-
maybe
why
2
doesn't it
and
say
5
that?
should be combined?
Well, there are three-month groups.
Should 2 and 5 should be
It
combined?
doesn't say it's up above.
Oh, there we go.
Private
All
members.
right, all right.
Number two, it's private members and.
That's
Got
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, take it back.
That's the
Got
people with the,
And,
watching the
and one
videos.
thinking in the BAC on the 6 is we really do want to encourage people to use the clubhouse. And there'll be a lot of 4-person tables at the clubhouse. So if it is a small group,
We're all gonna come
That would be
out.
perfect.
Yeah.
Do whatever we need to do.
Right now, they can do that at Canoa Hills.
mhm.
Great.
So
Okay,
I
good.
will probably be.
And then and also we're gonna have, Del Sol.
And maybe
They'll
that's
have that
something,
place
That's what I said.
maybe that's
Play
something
cards
that
and stuff.
staff and board has to look at when we're redoing these facilities and updating them. You know, there are, like at East, you could have tables out in that entry area where people could just drop in and play, right?
I think that that's part of assessing the centers to figure out where we can create social gathering
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
And like, I don't intend to, at this point, pull the tables out of Canoa Hills. I'm gonna buy all new tables for Del Sol because people are really using that space at Canoa Hills. I don't think we can take the TV away now because they're, watching the game at night there.
And I'll bet somebody will want porn.
Well, but we have control over that.
Well, but again, just strategically,
Mhm.
I'd move that TV. I want our members a year from now saying, that's the greatest thing we ever came up with. It's loaded with people. I go there and it's always a happy group doing things. So I think carefully about, like the TV and things like that. Let's get,
Well, I
Del
would
Sol
just get
loaded.
another TV for Del Sol.
well,
Instead
I
of
want,
taking one away.
well, I want to get that one busy.
Oh, I
I
don't
mean,
think we're
even to
gonna
the
have a-
point where,
I don't-
take them away from, and then if it gets too busy, put it back in
I really do not anticipate a
No.
problem. Yeah, because we're already, like our paint and sip program, hugely successful. That's gonna move right over to
Yeah,
Del
good.
Sol. And then nobody can watch the TV that night, but they can go a mile down the road to Canoa Hills and watch TV.
except we get them in
So-
2 rooms, don't we?
Yeah, that's interesting
Right.
how popular that was.
Yeah, it's very, so, where are we?
Okay.
6.
Did you agree to 5?
I think
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing.
And she was gonna, and you're gonna add 6 people or more to that, even though it's already set in.
It's already up there.
It's in
So you're
number
gonna add-
2.
2. It's in number 2.
Okay.
All right, so we already know, let's skip over number 6. Marge's blood pressure is down for a second. Let's keep
I'm
it there for a
calm.
minute.
The first two, are we not doing 6?
We'll come back to
You're being
it.
a chicken.
No, I'm trying to give you a little rest.
Okay.
We agreed to
So
7,
number
8,
7, we
9.
can all agree that it's humane and nice to.
We agreed to it
offer
already.
We already got
memorials.
those
All right.
checked.
We got
Eight's
it.
checked.
Yeah.
9.
And we did
8, no
together.
commercial
Nine.
rentals?
Number 8, can
Yes,
you
right
explain
now, a
what you mean
ton.
by commercial? I know before there was an objection to, I think it was a political thing or something to do with, voting or abortion rights.
What
or
about a
something.
company selling timeshares?
Right, that's what it is.
Yeah,
No,
When
we-
I
we
say
said political
commercial, I
was
mean, they're
okay.
making
Yeah,
money
I would-
off our
yeah.
members.
I would be against that.
We said
Yeah.
political was okay in another place.
It's
but anyway.
actually in the policy, that
Right, that's what
political
I
is
thought. Yeah, we
okay,
read
yeah.
that
And
policy.
they are political, not.
They're not.
No, they're fine.
Republican,
No,
Democrat.
no,
They're fine.
it did say.
It can be
you
partisan.
didn't limit it to
Oh,
GDR.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm okay to 7 and 8.
Number 9 formalizes a longtime practice. Our sports facilities, for example, a pool may only be reserved by the swim club, for example, or for water volleyball. You cannot reserve a pool for your 16-year-old's party or
Yeah.
But
those
the
sorts of
Amigas can't
things.
reserve a pool.
The Amigas cannot reserve a pool. They can show up in mass and vibe other people out.
Okay, seems
that work?
reasonable. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
does work. I've seen it happen.
I was over at a kid's
You said they
birthday
just show
party,
up
came
and
at the
chase
pool,
everybody
we
away.
all left.
Which is fine, that's what, this is the
Law of the
world.
jungle.
Yeah.
Number 10 is kind of a gimme, but we have needed something to point to, especially with rentals at West Center. People will want to avoid paying the rental fee for room 1. They want to rent the kitchen and the auditorium, which you have to walk through room 1. No one else can use it. So we would like to add that in for reservations and rentals.
Well, that's
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yeah, it's not the only place that's like that. Desert Hills is also that way.
But if you remember, you said rented together. If I was a member, I wouldn't have to rent it, right?
It says reserved.
Unless you're renting it. If you have people who are non-members coming to your event, then you have to rent.
Okay.
Right, so you can reserve it,
Okay.
Mhm.
For members.
Unless they have a guest pass from your next. door
Unless they
neighbor.
all, unless all of them have a guest pass, yeah.
Number 11 formalizes a long-term issue, which is that we don't permit audible media in communal areas unless there's an exception to policy.
Yes, definitely.
Like when you do your summer swim things in the summer with me.
Like an event, sure.
You
Yeah,
know,
or
just-
Santa Rita Springs Fitness has an ETP on that one.
Yeah, is that, I was down there
Mhm.
as making my tours of the centers. I was there and they were playing music like mad.
Yeah, they've had a long-standing exception to policy that they got from the board years ago.
Long time ago.
It's creating a more conflict now that we've got to figure out a way to put a governor on the volume, but we'll figure that out. So on the flip side now, number 12, the policy is that members no longer, this change would, members would no longer need to seek our permission to include adult beverages in their activities. They just can't sell them.
Yeah.
What is our liability about permitting alcoholic beverages on the premise if somebody is drunk and goes kill somebody out in the parking lot?
Risk management said it's no different from if we give permission and you go get drunk and fall down in the parking lot.
Right.
So I passed that by the guys. 13.
Oh, really?
Why are you doing that, Natalie? Why are you doing no approved caterers list?
So right now, because what we do for our caterers list, we go out and track down caterers and say, we need all these documents from you. And we have limited capacity to do that. So right now we have like 5 caterers that are approved. But if you want to go do the footwork yourself and find someone else that, and you just bring us their permit, then that expands your options. You can go to any restaurant and convince them to come cater your event as long as you bring us the health department's permit that says they can.
What if you have, I'm keeping the blood pressure down over here, okay? And that is how calm I am. What happens if you have a smaller group? Say Bev has her HOA decides they want to have a little party and they need a caterer, but they don't have anybody to go find one. You used to be able to go to GVR and get the list and pick one of them. So you're just not gonna have the list anymore?
No, we've had a lot of requests to get rid of that list.
Oh, really?
But what if you had the
Yeah.
list for the ones that wanna use it, and if you don't wanna use it, then they need to bring in the health department license?
Couldn't you have a list of those who are already licensed?
Yeah.
I mean, this is, wouldn't allow both things, that you have a list, plus you're allowing people to bring the, license if they went out and got it.
Aren't you
I mean, why are they mutually exclusive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to keep checking up that they're renewing their license.
Yeah,
so.
you do.
Well, but if GVR has 5 caterers and it's easier for me that's putting a social together to just use one of them.
But they can check once a year, their license.
Yeah, and they
is
check,
current,
yeah,
But I'd rather have somebody else that is not on the list. But then it's up to me to get their help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Both options seem reasonable.
Hey, does that help you or not?
did we just cause trouble?
No, you know,
Somebody else had this
it's
room?
fine. No, I hope not.
It just wouldn't be a limited list, it would be a list that was available.
Available, but you're free to choose.
But you can
whoever
also
You want.
Choose another one
Otherwise,
with,
you can provide
with
your
licensing.
current health certificate.
that makes sense.
So you can use off of the list or you can get your own as long as
I
you
think it's a good
provide.
idea.
the
And I
certificate.
would hope the caterers, if it's a small list, the caterers will want to stay on it.
Yes.
And maybe a lot more.
I chose my caterer
bringing the
from that
paperwork
list
in.
and I was very, very happy.
Okay.
Today I had to be over at Quail Creek and I had reserved the board room for the function. Somebody turned 88. And I said, is it okay if I bring a birthday cake? And she said, it's okay if you bring a birthday cake, but it can't be homemade. has to come from
Oh,
the
gosh.
store.
Mm,
And
that's
that was
terrible.
interesting to me.
The schools do that now too.
Yeah.
You can have homemade stuff.
And that, I thought that was very interesting. I make a better cake than the baker. But
They
I,
lost
that's
out.
what I did. I would have told
I
him.
hate buying cakes.
Well, I don't think we have that regulation here because we run potlucks and everything else.
Oh, are they? I don't
You know,
know.
I
a little
thought
better.
I had to
They're
buy
so
it.
sweet.
Natalie, so that.
I'll figure something out.
Okay.
Great. So 13 is kind of a work in progress.
Yeah.
So it's mostly there.
All right.
14 is reasonable, right?
Yeah, that's
Mainstream.
reasonable.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about 15, right?
No, this one is about attendance. This one is about cancellations and people cheating. And so they sign up with 6 and say there's gonna be 6 people, but it's just them watching the exercise video.
Right.
So, BAC would like us to address no shows. And, especially when there's such high competition for the rooms, which I understand, because
Yeah.
it is very competitive right now. So if their attendance falls below the minimum for more than 2 weeks, or if there are no shows, there may be, I would prefer
Yeah,
to
I
say
think
maybe, so that we, we can be reasonable.
And for sure, when Marge shows up and the room seems empty, you're taking care of it.
I'll call you, Natalie. I'll send you a text.
Well, that was just like today.
You want a
I
picture?
scheduled it for 12 people, but 4 of them are sick. We don't
Right,
want.
you can't control that,
No.
right?
No,
And
but
so
that's
we
why we
didn't
said
have
two
12.
weeks and giving some flexibility.
Yeah.
It's just the ones that are cheating.
I gotta go. No, I gotta go.
Yeah, okay.
All
So-
right.
Almost.
Close.
Almost. We can go back to.
Going back to
number
6.
So we're not doing it, this stuff is just explanation then?
Yeah, this is just explanations for change. I don't think it's a big deal, this one. The damage deposits were in the policy used to, currently reads that damage deposits are required. We've never, ever done that until last year. We started requiring non-member rentals to put down damage deposits because we had a problem and we could not collect funds.
Mm.
So my proposal is that we collect damage deposits for non-member rentals because we can pursue our members.
Sure.
Okay. Good, yep.
So it's just number 6. We're back to 6. Which this feels good to me because it's really boiled down to like 1.5 issues. Out of a lot of changes.
You know, and I think for the board's sake and probably for the staff too, we need to sneak up on this. I mean, we do a little bit and people get used to it. And then if you need some more, we can add more, but hitting them all at once with a whole bunch.
Well, are you okay with making this instead of 2, either 3 or 4, and then making it clear that that doesn't count summer ones?
I would be okay with making it 6 and then we could have one every other month. Because even though I'm gone in the summertime, they did have HOA things last summer because there are people that in the neighborhood, half our neighborhood is gone in the summertime. But there are people that still need to get together and do some sort of social activity. So I'd be okay with.
So are we, and
Number
that's
6.
not exempting the summer,
I had
just
a
including
question.
it.
So does that mean every HOA is gonna, I mean, it could encourage primarily 6 events to happen during the busy season, which is winter and spring. So that means all the HOAs could be piling all their socials. Would it be better to say, we're gonna limit each HOA to
Every other month.
once every other month instead?
That would work.
Because if you say 6 per year, well, that means you could do 2 in January, 2 in February, and 2 in March.
Well,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And I also looked, if we use the 4 as the number, there's only 6 of this, 60 HOAs that are affected. So that potentially might free up space for some of the other ones to be able to get rooms.
And that was sort of the thinking behind the proposal, is that when you really look at the breakdown, it's a small number of groups, at least in terms of HOAs. Now, this is not the full scope of the issue, but it is, the primary issue was socials. But it's really a small group of HOAs that are creating a big jam up because socials are time intensive and resource intensive for staff.
Yes.
Because there's a big mess after every one of them.
Mhm.
And during the season, we often have to, add on staff to handle socials.
Really?
What if you said limited to 3 from October to April and then,
I would say if you want to say unlimited in the summertime, but October to April, you could do 4.
I think
That would fit
What
every
Scott
other
said
month.
works better.
Every 8 weeks. We could just say every
Every
8
other
weeks.
month.
do you have something
Every other
to
month.
track
Every other
that?
month.
Okay.
Yes.
Every other
That's
month.
something,
Yeah.
Every
Make it
other
simple.
One
month.
every
is
other
easier
month.
for you.
Yeah, because then the HOA can
Oh, yeah.
find something somewhere else,
Yeah.
a little variety in their
or
life.
they can pay for the use
Or
of the
pay,
room.
yep.
Or
Oh,
two.
do you
Do we
have-
know what the
every-
rental fee would be if we had to pay?
Depends on the room.
Okay.
I will say that with our existing policy, there are many members, if we were to put a dollar value using our rental fees on the amount of time they're in our rooms, we're paying them to be our members at this point.
Yeah.
Because they are attending so many socials or so many 3-month groups that are 3 or 4 hours long. And if we were, if you just equate it dollar per hour, we're actually paying them at this point.
So I know we had our chili supper at Canoa Hills. I don't know how many tables were there, quite a few. And I think we were there, I'm gonna say 2 hours. In fact, there was probably, people were already leaving by then. But it required staff time, I know, to set up and take down all those tables.
Right, and we're paying
So.
people to do that.
So then the next question for me, if we're gonna change this to every other month, do we even want to say that you can do, if you want to do it more frequently, you can pay the rental fee, or
No,
just say no,
No.
just say every other
Say
month?
They ever,
Say
and they'll
no.
sure, I mean,
If
you,
it comes up.
anybody comes up and wants another one, you can tell them, yeah, you can have it for whatever the fee is.
You know, you guys want social centers and you want social
Right.
activities. Now you're limiting.
Mhm.
I mean, when you get like her HOA likes to meet every month, why are we limiting her to only 6 or to only?
So that we have room, so
For
we're
our-
being fair
for
and have
our-
enough room
so
for other
fair.
people.
Oh,
But they're
right.
also doing it, they're also doing their social things in the evening.
For our
And you said
GBR
the problem is
activities.
before 2 o'clock.
And they've got the weekend, right?
no, but
But
if you
they're
say,
limited.
if you say every other month, doesn't mean except on weekends or after 2, doesn't mean that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, we could always look at, I think the weekends are almost empty in our centers.
Yes.
Every other month during prime hours.
Yeah,
And
so,
define private member functions. I mean, it's like,
That would be if you had a birthday party.
It's a private function. Not everybody can show up.
okay,
Like
gotcha.
an HOA or a birthday party.
I just think this number 6 has a problem, and I think
Number
I-
6.
We
Yeah,
have
that's the one we're
129
talking
HOAs.
you got 129 HOAs, but you only have 52 or 53% of them that are even doing anything, and only 12% of those are the violators. It's 5 of them.
But technically,
They're not
all of them
violating
could be.
anything. Right.
I mean,
that's-
technically, they could all
Right.
decide tomorrow to do.
Well, but I mean, by
Right.
this policy, they'd be
Yeah.
violators. And I just think that we ought to be able to say, it's social. And if if the only thing I do is go to the chili supper or go to the other activities, and you make it where I can't have those, then I won't leave my house.
well, again,
So aren't we just
again, we
being
have the
social?
clubhouse. Why couldn't they,
Yeah, Carol, I'm talking about something totally different. The
Yeah.
clubhouse has nothing to do with a social activity set up by a club or an HOA or a group.
why couldn't the HOA say, we're limited to 2, one every other month. Let's just do an informal meet at the clubhouse, 7 o'clock on Tuesday night.
But
And,
six-
and we'll even help bring people, our neighbors, to the party. I mean-
6 people or 6 groups might say the same thing.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
probably have.
First come, first served.
And then they move over to Canoa Hills.
it
That's a good
seems to me,
outlet.
Marge,
I really like the idea of floating the every other month thing. One of the things that I think that when you look at this is a limited number of people who are really, one of the, and so pay per use is one of the things that comes up every few years, like, should we start looking more toward that? I'm just looking for something equitable here. And when we see HOAs, like your HOA wasn't doing anything and now they are, the old HOA that I used to live in had 2 socials a year, now they have 11. This is a growing trend and we just don't have the
So
capacity
what would it
for
cost to rent that room at Canoa Hills where we were at last time?
I don't know, I would have to
They're
look at
not
our
great.
rental rate. We'd have to look at the rate sheet.
I mean, are we talking $25, $100?
Oh, gosh, yeah, it's per hour. Yeah.
it's at least 100.
So then that would definitely eliminate us,
Is the every other month a
That's,
solution or is that not a solution?
March is saying it's not a solution.
I don't think it's a
it's
solution.
a solution, but I don't like it
You
because
know,
Yeah, that's
I
6 a
think
year.
we could say 6.
That's 6 a year.
Well, but I think we could say 6 during the heavy time of October through April and then unlimited. We don't care what you
Then
do
that
in the
doesn't
summer.
solve the problem.
Use the
No.
facility.
yeah, that doesn't
Well, every
encourage,
other-
doesn't
That might
solve the
encourage
problem.
non-users to use it even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing
Yeah.
is, I still have the money issue, it seems to me, in terms of staff, time and so if we give people unlimited
That's
time,
fine.
like she says, we're paying them to use it because we're paying staff. So either we have to limit the time they can be there or we have to charge them. I think,
so we
Yep.
do
One or
6
the other.
times October to April and then in the summertime.
6
I agree.
we could say-
6,
That's every month.
every other month,
Every
every
other
other
month.
month, every other month.
Every other month,
Every other month.
Yep.
Shall we take a straw vote?
every other month.
How many say every other month?
Talk about.
And anybody can do it in the summer.
Oh,
wait. Those are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Every other month,
Yeah.
period,
Every
Every
other
other
month.
month.
Every other month.
period.
That was Clark, that was Scott's suggestion.
Yeah,
7?
7.
Yes,
Oh, you don't get.
So teamwork. It was a team effort.
teamwork, good job, Scott.
Thank you.
Can we
See,
go home now?
Scott, you're already working on our teamwork.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So we're
where
gonna
are
go
we-
every other month, all year long, and they're limited to that period. They can't rent in between.
They
Oh, yeah.
can rent.
You
Yeah,
can rent.
They can rent.
It's
Anytime.
available.
But it's gonna be a
Pay.
lot, so.
you just can't take all that
It's
advantage.
less than, it would cost to rent, a room from, the city parks or,
Best Western.
certainly better than, it's very competitive for our competitors who won't let you have a single free social.
Right.
So
Oh, yeah.
this is
No,
something,
no
I
free
mean, every
socials.
other month is already a heck of a perk,
Yeah,
compared to
it's really true.
Any place.
any place else.
Any two.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a dumb question. Are you gonna bring this
For the
back?
first time?
Yeah.
Okay, I have to take my tick mark
Like
off
the
some
third-
previous questions.
First dumb question. Are you ready to like ignore all these red pages and just incorporate this in? Is that where we're going with
That's
this?
all all this red is just this.
Oh,
That's why we made it further
There's a
through
whole
that
lot of
way.
lines of stuff printed
Sure, a
out.
lot of lines of stuff.
Mhm.
I'm not ready to
That's
vote
how-
on all of them.
Well, it got moved, things got moved
Moved-
around,
things
that's why
got-
some of
right,
it's
Yeah, this
red.
is-
Watch my red blood pressure go up again?
This is a ton of movement and I really appreciate the fact that she made a summary of it because the BAC's been struggling with all of this for a couple of months.
Yeah, it has not been easy to keep track of it, but there's some things like over on page 13, it's the policy of GVR to provide and maintain a drug-free environment. We pulled that out because very early in our CPM, it says that, you have to abide by the law on this property.
Yeah.
So this is just redundancy.
Right.
So
Mhm.
some things are pulled out there because of that. Some of them are out because they're addressed in other parts of the.
Okay, on that one, how do that's not even realistic on the drug thing, because now with CBD stuff and
Yeah.
the little leaves and all that,
Yeah.
you're not gonna know if it's drugs.
Well, we don't know
Won't
that,
let you on a cruise ship.
we don't know. There's lots of things people are doing that we don't know about.
Yeah.
but,
We don't.
you know, if we see somebody
They
twisting up a
gave me
fatty.
You don't wanna know.
I did all my drugs in the seventies.
They got new ones now.
You know.
Those are the old ones.
So what's,
They were bad
I
enough.
don't know, I guess that's up to you guys. If we
Question,
need
do you
another,
want it at the next board meeting to vote on? Are you ready to vote on this, or do you want her to bring it back to us?
I move that we vote on it the next board meeting.
Just
Yeah.
revise it with those little.
Yeah.
edits
Let's
and
do it
then,
at the
yeah,
next
we're
Yeah,
ready.
because we'll
28.
get another copy of it before
Let's
the
do it
board
now.
meeting. And then.
We can't vote now.
Something comes up at the board meeting that we can't all agree on, then we are.
That would be real different, wouldn't it?
and there'll be a clean copy too, so it won't just be this, like, this is a murder scene, right? Is what it looks like, but it won't, yeah.
I don't see how bringing it up the board means could be different from this
Yeah.
discussion. This is the
Exactly.
board.
Nobody-
This is the board.
I know,
I mean,
don't
this
wanna-
is the board. Why bring it up to the board? This is the board.
I know
We can't vote.
We can't vote.
You have to vote on it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know we can't vote at a work session, but are we gonna have this discussion all over again?
Well, hopefully,
We can have Natalie present. So
Natalie
we talked
can
about it
present
at
it.
work
Right.
session. This is
And
what we
briefly.
came up with.
And,
Okay,
and we are not entertaining any more questions.
okay, the refined
Yeah.
copy.
That'll go
find
over.
a clean copy of what we're gonna vote on.
Okay,
But the clean copy here would still be, well,
And
several
I took
pages
down
of
the
small
names of the
print.
people who raised their hands.
yeah, like the dark pages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the clean copy would still be several pages of small prints I had in the summary, which I think would be really helpful for the members and the directors. When you look at what it actually says, all the wordage or verbiage, you might be able to, I didn't even get that, but you look here, it's like, yes, you did agree to that. Because you simplified it.
Sorry.
That was a good move to simplify it.
I needed it simplified.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I made the tool for myself and went, oh, other people might.
I wanted to come
Yeah.
to the forum. that was
If
there to
It got,
Uh-huh.
you know, there were
People
four
seem to think it went
iterations, there
well.
were 4 rounds of this at BAC. So it's been considered and reconsidered several
What do you
times.
have when you're getting?
Carol, how many people on the BAC committee?
How many?
Got the rest?
Eight. Yeah, eight or something around there.
Ms. Blake here has a question.
I just would like to thank Jeff. I thought this morning was very, very well.
I think Bob did a very good job.
Yeah, he sure did.
Wonderful
Yeah.
job, yeah.
And I have to leave to take my drive out to dinner.
Oh, oh, it's,
Go for it.
oh, it's right, it's Valentine's Day. I haven't bought anything. I haven't bought any candy, that's what she needs, is more candy. I don't know. What are you doing, Scott? Anything special?
Good.
for Valentine's?
Monday night was our
Steve got married.
Valentine's night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went on
Steve
choir
married.
long marathon, and then we went to Mexican
Cleaned up
Steakhouse, Charo
good.
del Rey,
Oh.
downtown. Really awesome. So we kind of did it early.
Yeah, well, that's good, because
Oh,
it's
yeah,
gonna
we
be
hate
crowded.
going on Cake I was able to buy.
A lot getting a table.
Yeah, I
We
know.
don't have a reservation.
Yeah.